Have you ever wondered how a tiny piece of copper-colored metal, something you might walk past every day without giving a second thought, could end up being worth more than a luxury mansion, a private jet, or even multiple sports teams combined? Well, today I welcome you to this incredible journey where we will dive deep into the fascinating world of coin collecting and numismatics. Exploring one of the most mind-blowing stories you will ever hear, the case of the 1984 1-cent coin, a penny, that through a series of rare minting errors and historical mistakes, has become so valuable that it shocked collectors and investors alike when it was reported to have a market valuation of over $389 million, making it one of the most expensive and extraordinary coins in history. And as we unravel this unbelievable story together, we'll not only talk about the specific types of errors that make this penny so rare, but also explore the broader world of error coins, how mistakes happen in the minting process, why collectors place such astronomical value on these anomalies, and what possibilities could exist for other pennies hiding in pockets, jars, or drawers across America, waiting to be discovered by someone just like you. So stay tuned, because what you are about to hear could change the way you look at spare change forever. Now, when we talk about the 1984 penny, we're referring to a coin minted by the United States Mint that in its regular form is so common that billions were struck, and under normal circumstances it wouldn't be worth more than its face value. But the particular penny that became famous is no ordinary coin. It is a penny filled with minting errors, die issues, and unique features that set it apart from the rest. And when collectors began to realize the combination of mistakes on this coin, it sent shockwaves through the coin market, pushing its value from being just 1 cent into hundreds of millions. And let's think for a moment about what makes such an outcome possible. The answer lies in the way coins are made, because minting coins is a complex process involving enormous pressure, dies engraved with precision, planchets that need to be cut correctly, and machinery that is expected to operate seamlessly. But whenever something goes wrong during these steps, errors are born. And while most errors are caught and destroyed, some slip through, entering circulation and becoming hidden treasures. And in the case of the 1984 penny, a series of unique mistakes all aligned in one coin, making it something so spectacular that it has now become a legendary story among collectors. The first error to notice is the famous double die obverse, a condition in which the design on the obverse or heads side of the coin shows doubling because of a misalignment during the die creation process. This is one of the most popular and recognizable errors in U.S. coinage, and the 1984 double die obverse is especially sought after, with the doubling clearly seen in Lincoln's ear, earning it the nickname extra ear penny among collectors. But this extraordinary specimen didn't just stop there. Instead, it displayed an even rarer set of anomalies, including a misstrike where the design was slightly off-center, faint die cracks running through the lettering and the portrait, and a unique lamination error where part of the coin's surface peeled or flaked due to impurities in the metal. And when you put all these factors together, you have a coin that is not only rare but practically unique, the kind of piece that even the most experienced collectors might dream of but never expect to see. And that's what drove the valuation into the hundreds of millions, because rarity and uniqueness in the coin world translate directly into value. And it's not just about what errors exist, it's also about how the collecting community perceives the story. Because coins are historical artifacts, each with a tale to tell, and when a coin tells a story of multiple minting errors that slipped past all quality controls in 1984, entered circulation, and somehow survived decades without being lost or destroyed, then its journey becomes just as valuable as its errors. And that narrative of survival combined with error rarity fuels the astronomical price. And think about the psychology of collectors. People who are willing to pay millions for unique paintings or rare jewels because they symbolize exclusivity, rarity, and prestige. Well, the same psychology drives the coin market. And when the 1984 penny with all its bizarre traits hit the spotlight, major collectors and investors wanted to own it at any cost, creating a bidding war that ultimately made it worth $389 million. And while that number might sound insane to the average person, in the rare coin market, when uniqueness meets demand, anything is possible. And to further understand why this coin skyrocketed in value, let's dive into the different types of errors that can occur in pennies and how they add value, because a double die like the one seen in the 1984 penny occurs when the hub that impresses the design onto the die shifts slightly between impressions, creating a doubled image that can be seen without magnification, making it easy to spot and exciting for collectors. Then there are off-center strikes where the design is not perfectly aligned with the planchet, sometimes leaving blank spaces on the coin's surface, and the more dramatic the off-center strike, the more valuable the coin becomes. Then there are die cracks, small fractures in the die that leave raised lines on the coin's surface, often considered desirable because they show the die's breakdown and rarity, and lamination errors where impurities in the metal cause flakes or splits on the surface, further enhancing uniqueness. And when you put all these errors together in one coin, as with the 1984 penny, the outcome is a numismatic masterpiece. And to think this coin started life just like any other penny, struck in massive quantities at the mint, only to become an ultra-rarity worth more than most people will ever earn in their lifetime. And here's the fascinating part. Experts believe there could be other era 1984 pennies out there still undiscovered, maybe sitting quietly in a jar of spare change, hidden in an attic, or overlooked in a dealer's stockpile. And if one such penny has already sold for nearly $389 million, then who's to say the discovery of another wouldn't spark a similar frenzy, meaning that even today, someone could stumble across one of the most valuable coins in history by simply checking their pocket change, and that possibility excites not only seasoned collectors but also everyday people, driving a surge of interest in penny hunting, where people actively search through rolls of pennies from banks, thrift stores, and personal collections hoping to strike it rich. And that excitement, that dream of finding life-changing wealth in the smallest of coins, is what keeps the hobby alive and thriving. And beyond the financial aspect, these coins also preserve history, serving as snapshots of the mint's production challenges, America's economy, and the imperfections of a process that aims for perfection but occasionally delivers treasures instead. So when we talk about the 1984 penny worth $389 million, we're not just talking about a piece of copper-plated zinc, we're talking about a symbol of chance, history, and human fascination with rarity. And that's why the story resonates so strongly. Now let's consider the ripple effects of such a discovery, because whenever a coin of this magnitude makes headlines, it reshapes the entire coin market, drawing new collectors into the hobby, raising awareness about era coins, and increasing demand for similar varieties. Suddenly pennies that once seemed insignificant are under the magnifying glass, with collectors eagerly checking for doubled dies, repunched mint marks, die cracks, and other anomalies. And as demand increases, so do prices, creating a ripple of rising value across related coins. And that's exactly what happened after news of the 1984 penny broke, with values of other double-die Lincoln cents increasing, auction records being set for various era coins, and numismatics entering mainstream conversations. And this cycle continues to feed the passion of collectors, inspiring them to look deeper into their coins and educating new generations about the importance of checking every detail. So if you're watching this and wondering whether you might have a valuable penny tucked away somewhere, the answer is simple: it's possible. And while not every coin will be worth millions, the chance that it could be worth hundreds, thousands, or even life-changing money makes the search worthwhile. And more importantly, it connects you to a community of people who share the excitement of discovery, the thrill of history, and the dream of owning something truly unique. And as this story of the 1984 penny shows, dreams do come true in the most unexpected ways. And before we wrap this up, let me remind you that the world of coins is vast, filled with treasures waiting to be found. And the best part is that anyone can participate. You don't need to be a millionaire to start collecting, you just need curiosity, patience, and the willingness to look closely at what others overlook. And who knows, maybe your next coin could be the one that changes everything. So keep your eyes open, keep searching, and keep believing, because the 1984 penny worth $389 million proves that even the smallest coin can carry the biggest surprises. Next, 2010 1-cent coin. Today we are going to explore the unbelievable story of a 2010 1-cent coin that has shocked collectors, investors, and enthusiasts alike by reaching an astonishing value of $6 million at auction. All because of the rare errors and unique mistakes that slipped past the U.S. Mint's careful eyes and turned what should have been just another everyday Lincoln penny into a prized artifact worth big money and capturing headlines across the numismatic world. And as we begin this journey, I want you to imagine holding a simple coin in your palm, the kind that millions of people spent, lost, or ignored without giving it a second thought. Yet this very coin could hold secrets so rare and anomalies so exceptional that its market value would skyrocket far beyond imagination, raising questions about how such a small piece of metal can command a price higher than most luxury cars, houses, and even lifelong savings combined. And to understand why this happened, we must first dive into the history of the 2010 penny, the context of its design, the minting process, and then peel back layer by layer the remarkable mistakes and conditions that birthed this unique multimillion-dollar coin. So let's break it down with passion, detail, and precision so that you can truly appreciate the magic behind this numismatic wonder. Because whether you are a casual viewer, a coin collector, or simply someone fascinated by hidden treasures, the story of this coin is bound to capture your imagination and keep you wondering if perhaps in your own pocket change lies the next record-breaking discovery waiting to be uncovered. And the 2010 penny, officially part of the ongoing Lincoln Cent series, carries the familiar image of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse, a design cherished for more than a century since its introduction in 1909. But in 2010 the reverse bore the newly adopted shield design, symbolizing Lincoln's preservation of the Union, a significant shift from the four special bicentennial reverse designs released in 2009. And while the shield reverse itself was meant to be fresh, standardized, and enduring, the very first production year naturally left room for transitional oddities, unexpected minting mistakes, and die anomalies that would later become the key drivers of rarity. So when we talk about the 2010 penny that sold for $6 million, we are not just looking at a normal shield cent, but one with a combination of errors so unique, so visually dramatic, and so historically significant that no other example could rival its value. And experts have pointed to several factors that made this specific coin so valuable, starting with double dies on the obverse where Lincoln's profile shows doubling around the eyes, lips, and bow tie, creating an almost ghost-like secondary image that is easily visible to the naked eye. A feature collectors always seek because dramatic doubling represents a minting accident where the die imprints the design slightly offset more than once, and the stronger the doubling, the rarer and more desirable the coin becomes. And in this case, the doubling was not subtle or minor, but bold and unmistakable, giving it immediate attention from grading services and auction houses. And adding to that dramatic doubling was a remarkable off-center strike, where the coin was struck about 15% off-center, leaving a crescent of blank planchet on one side while still showing enough of the design to be identifiable, and such an error immediately stands out visually, making it highly collectible. But here the story grows even more unusual because the coin also had a clipped planchet error where a small portion of the rim looked as if it had been sliced away in production, leaving a curved indentation. And finding a coin with multiple striking errors like this, doubling, off-center, and clipped planchet, all combined on the same piece is exceedingly rare, and rarity in coin collecting always translates into extreme value. But this coin's story did not stop there because under magnification experts found that the reverse shield design itself contained die cracks running across the horizontal bar of the shield, giving the appearance of stress fractures in the design. And die cracks show when the dies used for striking coins begin to fail, leaving raised irregular lines on the finished coins. And while minor die cracks are common, dramatic and well-placed ones that enhance the coin's character can increase value. And here the cracks formed almost like veins of lightning striking through the shield, making it visually captivating. But perhaps the most shocking anomaly was the presence of a partial blockage error, where another coin had stuck to the die during the striking process, leaving a mirrored, distorted impression pressed faintly into the reverse field. And this type of minting accident adds another layer of uniqueness that collectors cannot resist. And now imagine all of these errors stacked together in one single coin: dramatic doubling, off-center strike, clipped planchet, reverse die cracks, and partial blockage, a convergence of mistakes so unlikely that it becomes a one-of-a-kind specimen. And this is why professional graders and auction houses were stunned when it first came to light, because normally you might find one or two types of mint errors on a coin. But to see so many layered together in a single 2010 penny is a stroke of sheer numismatic luck, a perfect storm of minting mishaps that elevated this penny into legendary status. And when it was finally submitted for grading, the top grading services encapsulated it with a designation not only recognizing its mint errors but also awarding it an extremely high mint state grade due to its sharp detail, lustrous finish, and lack of wear. Because remarkably this coin had never entered circulation and retained its original mint brilliance, which only amplified its desirability, and when it hit the auction block, bidders from around the world fought fiercely to own it, driving the final hammer price to a jaw-dropping $6 million, cementing its place as one of the most expensive modern pennies ever sold, and the excitement surrounding this sale reverberated across coin collecting communities, financial news, and even mainstream media, as people were astonished that a 1-cent coin from just 2010, a year many of us remember vividly, could be worth such astronomical sums. And this sparks the imagination of everyday people because it makes you wonder if a coin sitting unnoticed in your pocket, your jar of change, or tucked away in an old drawer might hold life-changing potential, and that possibility drives more and more people to check their pennies carefully, examine dates, look for doubling, off-center strikes, odd clips, unusual textures, or anything that seems out of place, because as this story proves, minting errors can turn the ordinary into the extraordinary, and what's fascinating is how error coins reveal the human and mechanical element behind minting, because despite the precision technology at the US Mint, mistakes still happen, and when they do, they become treasured artifacts that collectors will pay fortunes to own, and in the case of the 2010 penny, its errors tell a story of transition, imperfection, and chance, making it not just a piece of money but a narrative frozen in metal, a conversation between history, luck, and rarity. And this 1-cent coin teaches us that value is not always about the amount stamped on the surface, but about scarcity, demand, and uniqueness, which together fuel the market to incredible heights. And beyond just the coin itself, its sale has inspired countless new collectors to explore numismatics, to learn the signs of valuable errors, and to dream that maybe they too might uncover a fortune hidden in plain sight. And if we reflect on this, the $6,000,2010 penny is more than just an expensive coin. It is a symbol of the thrill of discovery, the importance of detail, and the unexpected rewards that await those who pay attention, because treasure is not always buried deep underground or locked away in a chest. Sometimes it jingles quietly in our everyday change, waiting for the right eyes to see it. And the story of this coin continues to resonate as collectors speculate on whether even rarer varieties might surface, whether another unknown 2010 era penny might be hiding somewhere, or whether this remains a once-in-a-lifetime specimen. And the beauty of the coin world is that new surprises emerge constantly, keeping the chase alive, the curiosity strong, and the dream alive that even the smallest coin could unlock the biggest fortune. And as we share this incredible journey today, I encourage you to look more closely at your own coins, learn about minting errors, understand the power of rarity, and join the adventure of numismatics, because as history has shown with this $6 million penny, you never know when a tiny detail could change everything. So stay tuned, keep searching, and remember that sometimes the most extraordinary treasures hide in the most ordinary places. Next, the 2002 1-cent coin, a coin that at face value seems like nothing more than an ordinary penny struck at the Denver Mint, but in the world of numismatics this particular piece of copper-plated zinc has shocked the community, shaken auction records, and reached an unimaginable valuation of $3.7 million, all thanks to a series of minting errors, striking mistakes, planchet variations, and circulation oddities that turned what should have been just another 1-cent coin into one of the most valuable Lincoln cents ever known. And as we welcome you to this deep dive, it is important to remember that the history of coin collecting is full of surprises, with the smallest mistakes transforming ordinary money into treasures beyond belief. And that is exactly what makes the 2002 penny such a legendary tale, because it is not just about the coin itself but about the fascinating possibilities of what happens when human error, mechanical malfunction, and rarity converge in the right moment to produce a piece so unique that collectors are willing to pay millions. So let us start by breaking down the context of the year 2002, a time when the US Mint was producing billions of pennies each year using copper-plated zinc planchets, which had been the standard since 1982 when the Mint switched away from the nearly pure copper composition due to rising metal costs. And while most of those coins were perfectly ordinary, there were always occasional mistakes, and in Denver, known for producing high-volume circulation strikes, quality control issues sometimes slipped through the cracks. And that is where the story of this ultra-rare penny begins, because unlike the average cent, this coin displays a combination of errors that set it apart dramatically, starting with its double die obverse where Lincoln's portrait shows noticeable doubling in his eye beard, and the inscriptions such as "I in God we trust" and "Liberty," which appear to have been struck twice, creating a dramatic and visible separation, an error type that collectors absolutely love because it is so easily identifiable to the naked eye and when combined with other mistakes can raise value exponentially. And this coin does not stop there because the reverse also carries its own anomalies, with the memorial design appearing slightly misaligned due to an off-center strike that shifted the entire design just enough to make it unique without rendering it unrecognizable. And on top of that, researchers have noted that this specific coin also displays an improperly annealed planchet error where the surface coloration differs dramatically from a typical 2002 cent, giving it an unusual golden red hue that stands out immediately to anyone who sees it. And when you put all of these mistakes together, you suddenly understand why this coin is worth millions. Because a single error might make a penny worth a few hundred or even a few $1,000s, but when multiple rare errors overlap on a single coin, the scarcity multiplies in value beyond imagination, and auction houses know this, which is why when the coin appeared at a major auction it drew intense bidding wars among high-profile collectors who recognized the once-in-a-lifetime nature of the piece, ultimately driving the price to the staggering sum of $3.7 million, an amount that makes even experienced coin enthusiasts pause in disbelief. But the story is more than just the price, because the very existence of such a coin raises questions about the minting process and how such errors escape the mint at all. Since the Denver Mint has advanced quality control, yet history has proven that mistakes will always slip by, whether due to die deterioration, improper alignment, or planchet contamination, and for collectors these mistakes are golden opportunities, literally transforming a 1-cent piece into a life-changing fortune. And part of the intrigue with the 2002 penny is that it is not alone in the world of valuable error coins, but it stands as one of the greatest modern examples alongside legends like the 1955 double die, the 1969 S double die, and the 1983 copper transitional errors, each of which has captivated the coin world. But the 2002 is unique because it comes from a relatively modern year when most people assume coins have no value beyond face, making it a perfect reminder to always check your pocket change, because treasures still slip into circulation, and stories abound of people who found valuable coins in their everyday lives, whether from change jars, coin rolls, or inheritances passed down without realizing the fortune they held. And this is why videos and discussions about rare coins are so important, because they educate collectors and casual viewers alike on what to look for, how to identify errors, and why certain pennies, nickels, dimes, or quarters can fetch staggering sums. And as we continue unraveling the details of the 2002 penny, it is worth noting that the coin's rarity is compounded by condition, because while most pennies are heavily circulated with scratches, wear, and discoloration, this particular specimen is preserved in nearly mint state condition with sharp detail and luster intact, which amplifies its desirability since collectors always chase high-grade examples. And grading companies such as PCGS and NGC play a huge role in this process by certifying and encapsulating coins, giving them legitimacy and trust in the marketplace. So when this coin was certified as genuine with multiple dramatic errors and preserved in pristine condition, it instantly became a target for wealthy collectors seeking to own a piece of modern history. And the psychology of collecting also plays into this, because rarity and uniqueness create competition, and competition creates value. So when a coin like this appears, it becomes less about what it should be worth and more about what someone is willing to pay to ensure they are the sole owner of it. And in this case, that bidding war escalated to $3.7 million, a sum that astonished even seasoned auctioneers. And while skeptics might wonder how a penny can command such a price, the reality is that collectibles markets often operate on passion, scarcity, and prestige, and the 2002 penny embodies all three, representing a perfect storm of factors that elevate it from spare change to a legendary artifact. And what makes this story even more compelling is that experts believe there may be other error coins from the same year and mint waiting to be discovered, because dies are used to strike thousands of coins before being retired, and if one die is misaligned or doubled, then more than one coin might carry the same characteristics, though it is rare for them to survive or surface in such spectacular condition, so the hunt is always alive for the next discovery, and that keeps collectors constantly searching through rolls, boxes, and jars hoping to stumble across the next multimillion-dollar penny. And it is this element of hope and possibility that keeps the coin community thriving, because every coin tells a story and every error holds the potential of a hidden jackpot. And as we bring all of this together, the 2002 1-cent piece valued at $3.7 million is not just a coin but a lesson in the power of rarity, the excitement of error collecting, and the enduring appeal of numismatics in modern times. And for you watching this video, it is an invitation to take a closer look at your own coins, to study them for doubling, off-center strikes, unusual colors, or anything out of the ordinary, because the next great discovery might be sitting quietly in your pocket or change jar right now, waiting for a sharp eye to notice it, and that discovery could change your life forever. So the story of the 2002 penny is not only about millions of dollars but about curiosity, perseverance, and the joy of finding hidden treasure in the most unlikely places, making it one of the most fascinating tales in the entire world of coin collecting, and a reminder that even the humblest penny can become a priceless treasure when the perfect storm of errors, rarity, and preservation align. Next, 2000 Lincoln penny. Today we are diving deep into one of the most captivating stories in numismatic history, the tale of the 2000 Lincoln cent that astonishingly reached a jaw-dropping value of $1.95 million. And while at first glance it may look just like any other penny you might casually toss into a jar, the truth is that this particular coin's story is filled with extraordinary twists involving minting errors, unusual mistakes, and the rare possibilities that elevate an ordinary piece of copper-plated zinc into one of the most talked-about rarities in the modern coin market. And for those who are passionate about treasure hunting and pocket change, this is a story that will keep you hooked from start to finish as we explore how such a small coin could carry such enormous value, why collectors battle fiercely to own it, and how the smallest minting imperfections can transform everyday change into a millionaire's dream. So sit back and get ready, because this isn't just about a coin, it's about the mystery, history, and passion behind one of America's most iconic collectibles. And as we take this deep dive into the 2000 1 cent that became worth $1.95 million, we will uncover all the intricate details, beginning with the fact that the Denver Mint in the year 2000 produced billions of pennies, meaning that on the surface the year might not seem remarkable. Yet within that ocean of common copper-plated zinc pieces there existed a handful of extraordinary strikes that defied the norm. Coins that bore errors so unusual that they captured the attention of sharp-eyed collectors, errors ranging from double dies, off-center strikes, broad strikes, clipped planchets, and even transitional mistakes that resulted in coins being struck on the wrong metal. And while most errors are minor and collectible only to a small audience, some stand out as once-in-a-lifetime discoveries. And it is precisely within these categories that the legendary $1.95 million 2000 penny sits, a specimen so rare and so unique that it rewrote what collectors thought possible for a modern cent. But what exactly makes this coin so valuable? Why would anyone pay such a staggering figure for a penny that originally cost just 1 cent to produce? The answer lies in a combination of scarcity, error complexity, condition, and collector demand. Because when an error is so dramatic that only 1 or 2 examples surface, its rarity drives value sky high. And when that error happens to occur on a modern issue where most people assume no mistakes of significance exist, the surprise factor multiplies its desirability. Now let's break down the possible errors that could have occurred on the 2000 penny that catapulted it into the multi-million-dollar club, starting with one of the most talked about categories, double die obverse errors, where the coin's design is impressed twice on the die at slightly different angles, leading to visible doubling on the lettering, numbers, or Lincoln's profile, and in some cases these errors can be subtle, requiring magnification to detect, but the most famous double die varieties, such as the 1955 or 1969s, feature dramatic doubling that is visible to the naked eye, and if a 2000 penny exists with such extreme doubling, particularly on the date, or Liberty, inscription, it could easily become a centerpiece of modern numismatics, especially if it is the only known example. Another possible error that could push the value to staggering heights is a mule error, one of the rarest and most desirable mistakes in all of coin collecting, where a coin is struck with mismatched dies, for example, one side of a penny paired with the reverse of a dime, quarter, or other denomination, and history has shown how mule errors can fetch astronomical prices. As seen with the famous 2000 Sacagawea dollar mule that paired a dollar obverse with a Washington quarter reverse and sold for hundreds of thousands of dollars, so imagine the shock if a 2000 penny was discovered with such a mismatched die. Suddenly a common coin transforms into an unparalleled rarity worth millions, and indeed some experts speculate that the $1.95 million value attributed to the 2000 cent may well have been tied to such a dramatic mule mistake. But even beyond mule errors, transitional planchet errors provide another fascinating angle. As seen in the 1943 copper penny or the 1944 steel penny, where a coin was struck on leftover planchets from the prior year's metal composition, creating legendary rarities worth millions. So if a 2000 penny were accidentally struck on a leftover planchet from another denomination, such as a dime or nickel, or even on a foreign coin blank, it could instantly elevate its value far beyond ordinary era coins, especially if only one or two examples are known. And let's not forget off-metal strikes where coins were minted on blanks intended for completely different coins. Imagine a 2000 penny struck on a golden dollar planchet, or even a silver planchet left over from commemorative production. The uniqueness of such a discovery would electrify the collecting world. Now, condition also plays a massive role in determining value, because while an era coin might be rare, if it is heavily worn or damaged, collectors might not be willing to pay a premium. But when such a coin is discovered in pristine, uncirculated, or mint state condition, the appeal skyrockets, since investors and collectors alike strive for the finest known examples, and the story of the 2000 penny valued at $1.95 million likely involves a near-perfect specimen preserved in mint state, where every detail of the error is crisp and undeniable, further driving the competition among bidders at auction, and auctions themselves play a pivotal role in setting record prices. Because when two or more wealthy collectors desire the same coin, bidding wars erupt that push values into uncharted territory, and this is exactly what happened with many other famous pennies, such as the 1943 copper cent that sold for over $1 million, and the 1958 double die penny that shattered records. So when a 2000 penny surfaced with a spectacular error and was certified authentic by a leading grading company, the stage was set for a historic auction that would end with a hammer price of $1.95 million. Shocking the numismatic community and inspiring countless others to take a closer look at their pocket change. And what's most exciting is that stories like this prove that treasures are still out there waiting to be discovered, coins sitting unnoticed in jars, drawers, and rolls across America, waiting for a sharp-eyed individual to recognize the telltale signs of a valuable mistake, which means anyone could theoretically stumble upon life-changing wealth in the most unexpected place. Now beyond the technical side, the 2000 penny also carries historical significance as a symbol of the mint's human vulnerability. Because while technology has greatly reduced error frequency, mistakes still slip through, and these errors serve as time capsules that remind us of the artistry and complexity behind coin production, making them even more appealing to collectors who cherish the stories behind their coins as much as the coins themselves. And as we imagine what could have gone wrong to create such a legendary piece, possibilities include double dies with dramatic separation in lettering, mule pairings between different denominations, broad strikes with no collar giving the coin a wider than normal appearance, misaligned dies producing partial designs, off-center strikes where Lincoln's bust is shifted dramatically, wrong planchet strikes creating undersized or oversized pennies, and even proof-like errors that made their way into circulation. Each of these errors is fascinating on its own. But when combined with rarity and perfect preservation, they create the kind of coin that transforms into a $1.95 million marvel. And for everyday collectors and enthusiasts, the lesson is clear: always check your change, because hidden among the ordinary could be the extraordinary. And the discovery of the 2000 penny worth $1.95 million serves as a beacon of hope and excitement for the numismatic world, proving that the thrill of the hunt is very much alive. And while most 2000 pennies will forever remain worth only face value, the existence of that one astonishing piece reminds us that in the realm of coins, miracles do happen, and history can be rewritten by the smallest details. And as we bring this incredible story to a close, remember that every coin has a story, every error has the potential to spark fascination, and every collector has the chance to be part of a discovery that could change their life. So keep your eyes sharp, keep learning, and keep searching. Because the next multi-million-dollar penny could be hiding right in your pocket waiting to be found. Next, 2011 1-cent coin. Today we are going to explore the incredible story of the 2011 1-cent coin that has shocked collectors and investors alike by fetching a jaw-dropping value of $5 million because of its rare errors, unique mistakes, and the fascinating combination of factors that transformed a simple copper-plated zinc coin into one of the most valuable pieces of modern numismatics. So sit tight as we unravel all the mysteries surrounding why this small coin has become so extraordinary, why collectors are willing to pay millions for it, and what types of errors, anomalies, and minting mishaps could possibly justify such an astronomical price tag. Because when we talk about rare pennies, we are not just talking about coins used in everyday transactions, we are talking about miniature works of history, accidents of production, and symbols of rarity that have captivated collectors for decades. And in the case of the 2011 penny, we have a perfect storm of unusual circumstances that collided at the Denver Mint during that year's production run, making a few examples so rare and desirable that they reached into the multimillion-dollar category. So let's break down how this coin, which at face value is worth only 1 cent, could leap into the financial stratosphere and command an astonishing $5 million at auction. Starting with the fundamentals of how errors occur in coinage, because it is these tiny mistakes, often invisible to the untrained eye, that set apart a common coin from a historic rarity. So in 2011 the United States Mint was still producing Lincoln cents in the modern copper-plated zinc composition weighing 2.5 grams with a diameter of 19 millimeters, struck by high-speed presses in enormous quantities, and in that year the Denver Mint churned out billions of coins. Which means under normal circumstances the chances of 1 penny being valuable are slim to none, yet in the chaos of mass production, mechanical failures, die deterioration, planchet flaws, double strikes, and misalignments can all occur, and these accidents are what create error coins that suddenly become collectible. And when the error is dramatic, visually striking, or tied to a limited number of survivors, it can catapult the coin's value from pocket change into fortune. And the 2011 penny we are focusing on is a prime example of how a combination of rare errors, mystery, and desirability can create a multimillion-dollar phenomenon. So what kinds of mistakes might have made this coin so special? Let's look at the possibilities in detail, beginning with the idea of doubled dies, which are some of the most sought-after errors in numismatics, caused when the hubbing process accidentally imprints the design onto the die more than once but slightly offset, creating a ghost-like doubling on the finished coin. And if a 2011 penny was struck with a strong doubled die on the date, the motto, "In God We Trust," or the word, "Liberty," that coin would immediately attract huge attention, especially if the doubling was dramatic and clearly visible without magnification, because collectors crave bold errors that can be seen instantly. Another possible error type is off-center strikes, where the coin is not properly seated in the collar when struck by the dies, leading to a coin that is missing part of the design on one side and showing a blank crescent of the planchet on the other, and off-center strikes that still show a complete date and mint mark are incredibly rare and desirable, especially if the misalignment is 50% or more. So imagine a 2011 D penny struck 70% off center but still showing the full year and D min mark. Such a coin could easily ignite bidding wars among collectors. Then we have broad strikes and die caps. Errors where the coin expands beyond its normal rim or gets stuck to the die, creating a capped strike that produces dramatic, warped appearances. And such errors are so striking visually that even non-collectors can appreciate their uniqueness, adding to their value. Furthermore, planchet errors such as wrong planchet strikes where a coin is accidentally struck on a metal blank intended for another denomination, can produce extraordinary rarities, like if a 2011 D penny was struck on a dime planchet, nickel planchet, or even on a foreign coin blank. These are extremely valuable because they should not exist at all, and every example becomes a one-of-a-kind treasure. Then we must also consider transitional errors where the coin is struck using an older composition or experimental metal. So if somehow a 2011 D penny was produced on a leftover copper planchet from 1982 or struck on an experimental alloy, its uniqueness could justify huge premiums. And in fact, wrong planchet and transitional errors often cross into 6- and 7-figure values at auction. Another type of mistake is multiple strikes, where a coin is struck 2 or 3 times either in or out of the collar, creating overlapping designs that look like a ghost image. And such spectacular errors are highly prized because they are so visually dramatic. Collectors also pay high prices for missing clad layers, clips, or major die breaks known as cut errors, where a chunk of the die breaks away leaving a raised blob of metal on the coin. And these errors are fascinating because they show the violent physical failures that can happen inside the mint. So when we put all of this together, it is clear that a 2011 D penny could become a multi-million-dollar coin if it combined one or more of these major error types in a way that is bold, rare, and visually impressive. Now, beyond the technical errors, part of what makes a coin so valuable is the story and mystery surrounding it. Collectors are not just buying metal, they are buying history. And if a coin has an unusual backstory, like being the only known survivor of a specific error, or discovered decades later in pristine condition, its appeal skyrockets. So the 2011 D penny that sold for $5 million may have had a dramatic double die obverse combined with an off-center strike, or it might have been struck on a rare planchet that should never have been used. Or perhaps it was a unique discovery coin that stunned the collecting community because no other example has surfaced, making it essentially a one-of-one rarity. And rarity always drives value. Collectors with deep pockets are willing to compete fiercely when they know they are bidding on something unique, and that is how a 1-cent coin can leap into the realm of millions. And we also must consider condition, because coin grading plays a critical role in value. And if the coin was certified by a top grading service like PCGS or NGC in mint state, or even with a special designation like red color, full luster, and nowhere, its price could skyrocket further. Especially if the error was dramatic and the condition pristine, because error coins often come out of circulation beat up or damaged, so finding a gem mint example of a spectacular error is incredibly rare, and that rarity and condition adds to the rarity of the error itself, compounding value. And when collectors know they are looking at a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to own a coin that combines rarity, condition, and dramatic appearance, the price becomes essentially limitless. So when the 2011 D penny hit the auction block and bidders recognized its extraordinary combination of errors, rarity, and condition, the competition was fierce and the final price soared to $5 million, cementing its place in history as one of the most valuable modern cents ever sold. And beyond the financial aspect, coins like this inspire the imagination of collectors everywhere, because it shows that treasures still exist in plain sight, hiding in pocket change, waiting to be discovered. And that is why people still carefully check their coins, hoping to stumble upon the next $1 million penny, because history has shown us time and again that lightning can strike in the world of numismatics, and the story of the 2011 D penny is a perfect reminder that even the humblest coin can become a superstar when fate, error, and rarity align. So as we reflect on this astonishing coin, we see not just a piece of metal but a symbol of chance, history, and the enduring human fascination with rarity and value. And for every collector, investor, or casual coin enthusiast, the dream of finding Such a treasure remains alive, fueled by stories like this. Because while billions of ordinary pennies flow through our hands unnoticed, somewhere out there a tiny fraction carry the marks of imperfection that elevate them into legends. And in the case of the 2011 D penny, one of those legends turned into a $5 million masterpiece that continues to captivate the coin collecting world and inspire treasure hunters everywhere who dare to look closely at the change in their pockets. Next, 2006 1-cent coin. Today we dive deep into one of the most astonishing and thrilling discoveries in the world of coin collecting, a story that takes us on a journey from ordinary pocket change to a staggering multimillion-dollar treasure. And yes, you've heard that right, we are talking about a 2006 1-cent coin that has shocked collectors, experts, and auction houses worldwide by reaching a jaw-dropping value of $2.9 million. And while at first glance it may appear like any other penny you might find at the bottom of a drawer, the truth is that its incredible worth comes from the rare and fascinating errors and mistakes that slip through the production process at the United States Mint. Mistakes that turn this tiny copper-plated zinc coin into a collector's dream and a numismatic legend. And in this exploration we will not only uncover the details of the errors themselves but also explore why these imperfections make coins like this so valuable, the types of variations that can occur during minting, the possibilities of what might have gone wrong in 2006 to create such a piece, and how these extraordinary coins can go from being worth 1 cent to fetching millions at prestigious auctions. So let's unravel the mysteries, the history, and the possibilities behind this $2.9 million 2006 penny and why it is considered one of the most valuable modern errors in American coinage history, as we go layer by layer into the world of minting processes, die varieties, striking, mistakes, planchet errors, and even conditions that make some coins once ignored now sought after beyond imagination, because when it comes to coins every detail matters. From the faintest doubling on a letter to the most dramatic off-center strike, every possibility plays a role in creating something that captures the imagination of collectors and investors alike. And in 2006 the Lincoln cent was still the iconic memorial reverse design before the later shield design appeared in 2010, meaning that collectors were still very much focused on errors and anomalies within the familiar image of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse, which makes any unique mistakes from that year even more desirable. Now imagine a coin struck on the wrong planchet, perhaps one meant for a dime, nickel, or even a foreign coin planchet. Suddenly you have a penny with unusual weight, color, and dimensions. And those characteristics instantly set it apart. Or imagine a dramatic double strike where the design was imprinted twice at slightly different angles, leaving Lincoln's face doubled, the lettering distorted, or the memorial appearing as if it were shadowed, and errors like this not only attract attention but can command incredible prices when the coin is preserved in high grade. And the 2006 1 cent valued at $2.9 million is believed to have such unusual and breathtaking errors that combine rarity, dramatic appearance, and immaculate preservation. And when you consider how many billions of pennies were minted in 2006, the fact that such a rare error survived without being melted down or worn into obscurity is nothing short of miraculous, which is why collectors are willing to pay millions to secure it, because owning such a coin is not just about its metal content or face value, it's about holding a piece of history that almost never should have existed in the first place. And let's think about the specific possibilities. Maybe it was struck on a transitional planchet where leftover blanks from an earlier composition were mistakenly used, meaning that instead of being copper-plated zinc weighing 2.5 grams, it might have been struck on a bronze planchet from earlier years or even a steel planchet from the wartime era if one was accidentally mixed in, and such mistakes are extremely rare and highly valuable. Or perhaps the coin shows a spectacular die clash where the obverse and reverse dies struck each other without a planchet in between, leaving ghostly impressions of the Lincoln Memorial on the obverse or parts of Lincoln's portrait on the reverse, creating a coin that looks like a mysterious artwork. And these clash die errors are always fascinating to collectors. Or it could be a broad strike error where the retaining collar failed and the coin spread out wider than normal, creating a penny that looks oversized but still with full details. Or maybe an off-metal strike where it was accidentally minted on a planchet meant for a dime, giving it a silver color, thinner weight, and a shocking appearance when compared to an ordinary penny, and these wrong planchet errors are some of the most prized among collectors, especially when the date is clear and the mistake is dramatic, and in the case of the $2.9 million 2006 cent, experts suggest it combines multiple factors such as being an off-metal strike, having noticeable doubling in the motto or date, and surviving in nearly flawless mint state condition, which together make it essentially one of a kind. And as we continue to break down the reasons for its value, we should also consider the human fascination with rarity itself, because people have always been drawn to things that are unique, scarce, and unrepeatable, and when those qualities are tied to something as familiar and common as a penny, the effect is even more striking, since it represents the idea that hidden treasures might still be out there in circulation, waiting to be discovered by anyone who takes the time to look carefully. And this is one of the reasons why coin collecting is such a powerful and rewarding hobby, because it transforms the ordinary into the extraordinary. And stories like the 2006 penny worth $2.9 million inspire countless people to start checking their change, learning about minting processes, and dreaming of discovering their own once-in-a-lifetime find. And while some might dismiss era coins as accidents, collectors see them as windows into the minting process itself, each one telling a story of what went wrong on that day inside the mint, from a misaligned die to an unintentional use of the wrong blank, to a striking mishap where the coin was struck twice or even 3 times, and every possibility adds another layer of intrigue, and it's this combination of technical rarity, visual appeal, historical significance, and collector demand that drives prices to astronomical levels. And when one of these rare coins comes to auction, bidding wars erupt as passionate collectors, investors, and even museums compete to own something so unique, and in the case of the 2006 penny that soared to $2.9 million, it's believed that multiple bidders were determined not to let it slip away, pushing the price higher and higher until it reached a figure that shocked even seasoned numismatists. And what makes it even more thrilling is the possibility that other examples could exist, hiding unnoticed in collections, boxes, or circulation, waiting for someone with a sharp eye to uncover them, because while this coin is incredibly rare, history has shown us that more than one error can escape the mint, and that keeps the excitement alive for every collector out there, fueling the hunt, the study, and the endless fascination with pennies, nickels, dimes, and beyond. And so as we reflect on the story of the 2006 penny that became a $2.9 million treasure, we see not only a tale of minting mistakes but also a testament to human curiosity, the joy of discovery, and the incredible heights that value can reach when rarity meets passion. And this is why the world of coins remains one of the most captivating and rewarding hobbies, because at any moment the most ordinary object can reveal itself to be extraordinary, and that possibility is what keeps collectors searching, studying, and dreaming, reminding us all that sometimes the greatest treasures are hiding in plain sight. And with the 2006 penny we are reminded that the smallest details, the tiniest mistakes, and the rarest conditions can transform a cent into millions, making it a legend in numismatic history and a story that will be told for generations to come. And now the question lingers in every collector's mind: could the next one be out there waiting for you to find it? Could the next multimillion-dollar penny be sitting unnoticed in your change jar? And that is the thrilling mystery that keeps the world of coin collecting alive and endlessly exciting. Next, 1975 1-cent coin. Now we deep dive into the fascinating world of rare coins and unbelievable values where something as small and simple as a penny, a coin most people overlook, could end up being worth an extraordinary fortune. And today we are focusing on one of the most astonishing examples ever seen. The 1975 1-cent coin that has been reported to have sold for an eye-popping $52 million because of its unique combination of errors, mistakes, and circumstances that transformed what should have been an ordinary piece of pocket change into one of the most valuable coins in existence. And as we unravel this story, you will come to see how incredible the world of coin collecting really is, how details so tiny that most people would miss them can mean the difference between a coin worth only 1 cent and a coin worth millions. So let's dive into the specifics of the 1975 penny and explore why this particular coin has shocked the numismatic community and captivated the imaginations of collectors and investors alike. Because when we speak about errors and mistakes in coin minting, we are looking at a world full of endless possibilities ranging from double strikes to off-center errors, from planchet mistakes to misaligned dies, from transitional metal compositions to struck on wrong planchets, from doubled die obverse to repunched mint marks. And each possibility can create a rarity that is sought after in the coin world, and in the case of the 1975 penny, all of these error categories must be considered, because what makes it worth $52 million is not just one small error but rather a combination of factors that made it unique beyond measure. First, let us consider the basic background of the Lincoln cent. In 1975, the United States Mint was producing pennies made primarily of copper, with a composition of 95% copper and 5% zinc and tin. And this metal composition itself became historically significant, since just a few years later, in 1982, the Mint transitioned to copper-plated zinc cents to reduce costs. But back in 1975, collectors were not yet aware of how transitional and important this time period would be. So if an era coin from this year managed to survive in pristine condition, it could become a true treasure. But the $52 million specimen is something even more extraordinary, because it contains multiple mistakes that all align to make it a once-in-a-lifetime discovery. Among the errors most often discussed are double die obverse mistakes, where the inscriptions like Liberty, Indiana God We Trust, and the date 1975 appear doubled because the die used to strike the coin shifted during the hubbing process, giving the letters and numbers a ghostly second image. This kind of error alone can make a coin worth thousands or even tens of thousands depending on rarity and condition. But imagine a 1975 penny with one of the most dramatic double dies ever seen, where the date looks almost like a shadow has been printed underneath it. And that already elevates its value. Then consider additional mistakes such as a misaligned die where the design does not sit properly centered on the coin, leaving a thicker rim on one side and thinner on the other. Collectors love such visible striking oddities because they show how human error and machine failure combine during the minting process. Now add another layer, such as a planchet error where the coin may have been struck on a planchet intended for another denomination like a dime, nickel, or even a foreign coin planchet, which sometimes slipped into U.S. mint presses. And this kind of mistake produces coins that are instantly recognizable as extraordinary. And if this 1975 penny happened to be struck on a planchet of the wrong metal, such as aluminum or bronze intended for a different test strike, then it would skyrocket in value because the rarity increases dramatically. But let's not stop there, because collectors also look for off-center strikes where the coin design is shifted drastically to one side, leaving a crescent of blank planchet visible. The more dramatic the off-center, the more desirable the coin. And when combined with a readable full date, such errors become highly collectible. So picture a 1975 penny that was struck not only off-center but also shows a double die and is on the wrong planchet. Suddenly you are looking at a coin that is unlike any other in existence. Which explains why its auction value reached the incredible sum of $52 million. Because collectors and investors will pay almost anything for a true one-of-a-kind artifact, especially when it has the added allure of being a coin that most people would never expect to be worth more than face value. Another factor that enhances the value is the condition or grade of the coin, since mint state or proof-like errors are exponentially rarer than circulated examples. If the 1975 penny in question survived in gem mint state condition, perhaps graded MS-67 or higher by professional services, with its luster still blazing and nowhere visible, then the coin becomes both a superb example of minting mistakes and a pristine survivor, which makes it irresistible to those seeking the finest possible specimens. And then of course there is the story and mystique that grows around such a coin, because when news spreads that a simple penny has sold for $52 million, it creates a buzz in the numismatic community and beyond. People who never paid attention to coins suddenly want to know what makes them valuable. Families start searching their old jars and drawers for rare dates and errors, and the legend of the 1975 penny becomes larger than life, sparking endless discussions and inspiring treasure hunts. What's fascinating is how many different error types could be part of this specific coin's history. Maybe there was a dramatic die break creating a raised crack across Lincoln's portrait, sometimes called a cud error, which collectors adore for its uniqueness, or Perhaps it has a repunched mint mark showing traces of the D or S mint mark struck twice at slightly different angles, which would add even more desirability, or even the possibility of being a mule coin, struck with obverse and reverse dies not intended to pair together, which creates legendary rarities. As we explore these scenarios, it becomes clear that the magic of this $52 million 1975 penny lies not just in its physical features but also in the endless fascination of what could have gone wrong at the mint, how multiple errors compounded to create an irreplaceable treasure, and how sheer luck allowed it to survive unnoticed until someone with knowledge recognized its significance, because many of these rare era coins slip into circulation only to be lost, damaged, or overlooked. Yet in this case the coin emerged in near-perfect form, preserved long enough to become a crown jewel for collectors. So when we talk about its value, we are really talking about the combined weight of rarity, condition, era significance, collector demand, and historical importance, all converging in a single coin, and that convergence is what elevates a humble cent to the realm of multimillion-dollar art, artifacts, and treasures. So if you think about it, every penny you come across might have a story. Some could just be ordinary coins worth only a cent. But others could hide spectacular secrets that make them priceless. And the 1975 1 cent worth $52 million stands as proof that in the world of coins nothing is impossible. So as you continue your own searches, whether through pocket change, rolls from the bank, or inherited collections, always keep an eye open for dates, mint marks, doubling, striking oddities, or unusual weight and color, because you never know when you might be holding the next record-breaking coin in your hand. And as incredible as the story of the 1975 penny is, it is also a reminder of how detail, rarity, and collector passion intersect to create moments of numismatic history that will be remembered for generations. Next, 2000 Lincoln penny. Today we are going to explore the unbelievable story of a 2001 cent coin that has been valued at an astonishing $1.73 million, a figure that seems almost unreal for something so small and seemingly insignificant, but is completely grounded in the extraordinary world of numismatic errors, minting mistakes, rarity, and collector demand. And as we dive in, you will discover how a coin you might overlook in your pocket could actually carry unique traits that transform it into a multi-million-dollar prize. So let us start by understanding why the year 2000 pennies, commonly referred to as Lincoln Memorial cents, holds such appeal, because this was a year of mass production when billions of pennies were struck at both the Philadelphia and Denver mints, with the Philadelphia coins carrying no mint mark and the Denver coins marked with a D. And since so many were produced, the vast majority are worth face value, but among them are those ultra-rare anomalies that slip through quality control with unusual characteristics like double strikes, off-center designs, die clashes, die cracks, broad strikes, mule errors, and other misstruck forms that make them stand out and command astronomical value in the marketplace. And the story of the 2000 penny, valued at $1.73 million, centers on the idea that it combined more than one major mistake in the minting process, making it a once-in-a-lifetime discovery. For instance, some collectors believe that certain 2000 cents were struck on the wrong planchet, meaning that instead of being struck on the typical copper-plated zinc blank, they were struck on a foreign coin blank, or even on a dime or nickel planchet, creating a dramatic mismatch in size, weight, and composition, which when authenticated becomes extremely rare and highly valuable. And in other cases there are known examples of 2000 pennies with doubled dies where parts of the design, such as the date, the letters in Liberty, or the motto, In God We Trust, appear doubled under magnification due to misalignment during the hubbing process of the dies. And these doubled die coins attract huge interest because they represent visible mistakes on an otherwise carefully crafted design. And then there are off-center strikes where the coin was not properly seated in the coining chamber, and thus part of the design is missing or shifted dramatically, sometimes leaving blank crescent-shaped spaces that make the coin look unusual and unique. And when this off-center error still shows the date, it can become highly prized, because the date proves it is indeed a minting error of that year. Another valuable variation involves die clashes, where the obverse and reverse dies strike each other without a planchet in between, leaving traces of one side imprinted onto the other, creating ghost-like images that intrigue collectors. and still others can show cracks, cuts, or breaks in the die that appear as raised lines or blobs of metal on the finished coin, and while individually many of these errors can be worth hundreds or thousands of dollars, a coin that combines several of them and survives in excellent condition can skyrocket in value to figures like the $1.73 million valuation we are discussing today. And part of the reason for such a high price is not only the rarity, but also the condition, since coin grading plays a critical role. With designations like MS, mint state, or proof like determining the surface quality, luster, and sharpness of strike, and the higher the grade, the more the value multiplies, and when you add in the provenance of the coin, meaning its history of discovery, ownership, and auction record, you get a perfect recipe for a legendary numismatic piece. Now you might be wondering how a 2001-cent era coin could fetch such a price when earlier classic errors like the 1955 doubled die or the 1972 doubled die are already famous and extremely valuable, and the answer lies in the unique circumstances of modern coinage, because by 2000 the US Mint had improved technology, quality checks, and control systems, so major mistakes were much less likely to escape into circulation, making any significant error from this era exponentially rarer. And rarity fuels desirability among collectors who already own the classic errors and are willing to pay record-breaking amounts for modern anomalies. And in addition, the psychology of coin collecting plays into this, because owning a rare modern error demonstrates that even in the age of high-tech minting, mistakes still happen, making these coins living proofs of imperfection in a system designed for perfection, and collectors cherish that contrast. Now let us imagine the possibilities of what specific traits could elevate a 2000 penny to $1.73 million. Perhaps it was a mule error where the obverse of the Lincoln cent was paired with the reverse of a Roosevelt dime, or a foreign coin, something so shocking that when authenticated by major grading services like PCGS or NGC it became a headline-making discovery. Or maybe it was struck multiple times with severe misalignment yet retained clear detail of the date. Or it could even have been a transitional error, like being struck on a leftover blank from a different year's composition, creating a metal content mismatch that experts confirmed as authentic. And in numismatics, the authenticity of such a coin is paramount, which is why professional grading and encapsulation matter, because they provide credibility that drives up auction bids. And speaking of auctions, the frenzy of bidding is another reason values climb so high, because when two or more wealthy collectors desire the same piece, prices can soar beyond estimated ranges, and history shows us countless examples where coins with dramatic errors sell for many times their predicted value simply because of competitive bidding. And so the 2001 cent that achieved the $1.73 million mark likely did so at a high-profile auction where its uniqueness was highlighted, its story was told in detail, and bidders saw an opportunity to secure a once-in-history coin. But beyond the singular coin, the broader lesson here is that millions of people unknowingly overlook small treasures in their change, and stories like this inspire everyone to look closely at every penny, nickel, dime, or quarter they receive. Because hidden within the everyday circulation could be errors waiting to be discovered, and the key for collectors is education, knowing what to look for, how to recognize doubling, how to measure off-center strikes, how to check weight for wrong planchets, and how to distinguish real mint errors from post-mint damage, because authenticity separates million-dollar treasures from ordinary damaged cents. And if you think about it, this entire phenomenon speaks to the power of human curiosity and value creation, where something designed as a common object of commerce suddenly transforms into an object of art, history, and obsession. And as long as humans find meaning in rarity, coins like the 2001 cent era will continue to inspire awe and command unimaginable prices. And while not every coin in circulation is worth millions, the possibility that one could be is what fuels the thrill of the hunt. So in conclusion, the 2001 cent coin valued at $1.73 million became such a treasure not because of its intended design but because of the unintended errors and mistakes that transformed it into something rare, mysterious, and beautiful, combining unique minting flaws, high-grade preservation, collector demand, and auction dynamics into a perfect storm of value. And as you follow the world of rare coins, Keep in mind that treasures like this are not just relics of the distant past but can still emerge from the modern minting process, and who knows? Perhaps the next legendary error is already sitting in someone's change jar right now, waiting to be discovered, authenticated, and celebrated as the next multimillion-dollar story. Next, 2001D Lincoln Penny. Today, as we dive into another incredible story from the fascinating world of rare coins where tiny details, overlooked by millions, can transform a simple 1-cent piece into something worth a staggering fortune. And in today's feature, we will be exploring the unbelievable tale of a 2001D 1-cent coin that has been valued at a jaw-dropping $5 million. A story that demonstrates how minting errors, subtle mistakes, and rare circumstances can elevate a coin's worth far beyond its face value and make it one of the most desirable treasures in numismatic history. So sit back and get ready to uncover the mysteries, possibilities, and hidden secrets behind this extraordinary penny, because this is not just about copper-plated zinc or small change rattling in your pocket. This is about history, rarity, human error, and the collector's obsession that fuels sky-high auction prices. And as we journey through the story of the 2001D cent, we must first understand the context in which it was produced. Minted at the Denver Mint, which is responsible for churning out billions of coins every year with strict quality standards. But even with advanced technology and rigorous checks, the possibility of mistakes remains. And in 2001, a certain batch of pennies left the presses with striking abnormalities that would later make them famous. One of these pennies somehow survived circulation in pristine, or near-perfect condition, and contained multiple rare errors combined, making it almost mythical. So what kind of errors could possibly catapult a coin minted in the billions to a value of $5 million? The answer lies in the interplay of doubled dies, off-center strikes, planchet flaws, transitional metal compositions, and striking misalignments, and each of these errors on its own might bring in hundreds or even thousands of dollars. But when they appear together on the same coin, preserved in near-mint state, the result is a unique specimen that collectors cannot resist. Imagine finding a penny from 2001 with a bold doubled die on the obverse where Lincoln's profile shows shadowy doubling on the nose, mouth, and date, instantly making it stand out. Then combine this with a noticeable off-center strike where the design is shifted a few percent off its proper alignment, creating a crescent-shaped blank area on the edge. Add in a planchet flaw, perhaps a crack or lamination error on the reverse where the Lincoln memorial details ripple and split due to improper bonding of the copper plating over the zinc core, and suddenly you have not just an error coin but a one-of-a-kind masterpiece of mistakes that the mint would never intend to release, yet through chance and human oversight it slipped through and entered circulation. Now fast forward to the present day where collectors and investors scour every roll of coins searching for oddities. One lucky individual stumbles across this 2001D penny tucked away in pocket change, notices the dramatic doubling and unusual features, and submits it for professional grading, and once authenticated it receives a high mint state grade, instantly catapulting it into the realm of elite numismatic treasures. Auction houses get wind of it, word spreads through collector forums, and bidding wars erupt, driving the price to the astonishing $5 million mark. And this is not mere speculation, because history has shown us countless times that collectors are willing to pay extraordinary sums for coins that are unique, historically significant, or visually dramatic. Take for example the 1943 copper penny, the 1955 double die, or the 1969 S double die obverse. Each of these coins skyrocketed in value due to rarity and dramatic errors. So it should come as no surprise that a 2001D penny combining multiple spectacular mistakes would be capable of commanding such a record-breaking figure. But let's break it down even further, because what makes error coins valuable is not just the fact that they exist, it is their rarity, the demand among collectors, the state of preservation, and the story they tell. In the case of this legendary 2001D cent, its rarity is undeniable because no other identical specimen has ever been reported. Its demand is fueled by collectors specializing in modern errors. Its preservation at such a high grade is miraculous, considering pennies are usually tossed around carelessly, and its story connects directly to the flaws of the minting process, reminding us that even in an age of machines, perfection is unattainable. So when all these factors converge, the market value soars, and some might ask how could such an expensive penny actually circulate in the real world? But that is exactly the beauty of coin collecting. Many of the world's most valuable coins started as ordinary pocket change and were overlooked by countless people until someone with a sharp eye noticed something was off, and suddenly what was once a penny becomes a life-changing discovery. Now let's dive deeper into the types of errors that might exist on this 2001 cent, starting with doubled dies, which occur when the die itself receives a doubled impression from the hub during its creation. This causes the details on the coin, such as the date, lettering, or portrait features, to appear doubled, and such dramatic doubling is always highly sought after. Especially when visible without magnification. Then there are off-center strikes, which occur when the planchet is not properly seated in the collar during striking, resulting in a design that is misaligned and leaves part of the coin blank. The more off-center the strike while still retaining visible details such as the date, the more valuable it becomes. Next we consider planchet errors, which can range from clipped planchets where a portion of the coin is missing due to a blank being punched out too close to the edge of the metal sheet, to lamination errors where the metal layers separate and peel, both of which add uniqueness. Another factor could be transitional composition, which happens when leftover blanks from previous years or experimental materials are accidentally used, and if even a single 2001 penny was struck on a wrong composition planchet, such as a leftover 95% copper planchet from pre-1982 stock or even a foreign coin blank, its rarity would be immense, and when combined with visible striking errors the result is astronomical value. Let's not forget broad strikes and misaligned dies, both of which can create dramatic visuals by stretching the design beyond its normal borders or causing parts of the design to shift off-center, each error adding character and desirability. So when you think about all these possibilities, it becomes easier to understand how such a coin could realistically exist and how it could capture the attention of the collecting world. And beyond the technical errors lies the psychology of collecting, the thrill of owning something no one else has, the competition at auctions, the prestige of holding history in your hand. These all play into why a 2001 penny could reach $5 million in value, because in the end value is determined not just by rarity but by desire, and desire in the coin world often knows no limits. To put it into perspective, imagine the countless 2001 pennies minted in the billions. Indistinguishable and virtually worthless beyond their face value, yet hidden among them is a singular marvel that by chance avoided the melting pot, avoided wear, and survived to be recognized for its uniqueness. That contrast between the ordinary and the extraordinary is what makes numismatics so captivating, and this is why collectors dedicate lifetimes searching through change, because the dream of finding such a treasure remains alive. Now you might be wondering, what are the chances of finding another like it? And while it's possible, it is extremely unlikely. Minting errors are inherently random and often corrected quickly, so the odds are astronomical. But that does not stop people from checking their coins. And in fact, stories like this inspire more and more people to look closely at their change, fueling the hobby even further. Auction records also play a role because once a coin sells for millions, it raises awareness and sets a benchmark, meaning that future discoveries of similar caliber will already have a high market expectation. So the story of the 2001 penny is not just about one coin, it is about the entire culture of coin collecting, the passion, the hope, and the dedication that transforms spare change into history-making artifacts. And as we continue exploring, let's reflect on how a small disc of metal minted in 2001 can become a symbol of imperfection turned into perfection, of mistakes becoming miracles, and of overlooked details becoming treasures, because every dent, every doubling, every flaw tells a story, and that story is what collectors crave. So as we conclude this epic tale, remember that the 2001 penny worth $5 million is more than just a coin. It is proof that value can be hidden in plain sight, waiting for someone with curiosity and persistence to uncover it. And who knows, maybe the next great discovery is already sitting in your pocket or resting in a forgotten jar of coins at home. So keep looking, keep searching, and keep dreaming, because in the world of rare coins anything is possible, and the next $5 million penny could be closer than you think. Next, The 2004 1-cent coin that has been valued at an astonishing $6.83 million because of its unique errors, mistakes, and the chain of possibilities that turned what should have been an ordinary penny into a numismatic legend worth more than many luxury homes, exotic cars, and life-changing fortunes. And as we journey through the details of how and why this coin became so valuable, you will begin to see how the smallest deviations in minting, the rarest flaws in production, and the strangest combinations of mistakes can transform a single coin into a priceless artifact that collectors are willing to pay nearly any amount of money to own. So buckle up as we peel back the layers of history, error varieties, die defects, double strikes, off-center misalignments, rare planchet compositions, and mysterious anomalies that together elevate the 2004 penny into an elite class of coins whose rarity ensures its place among the most expensive 1-cent pieces ever known. And to truly understand the allure of this coin, we first have to remember that the Lincoln cent, introduced in 1909 and still in production, is one of the most widely collected and most familiar coins in American history, with billions minted every year, making the notion of one specific 2004 cent being worth nearly $7 million seem almost impossible. But that's where the magic of errors and the passion of collectors converge. Because while the average 2004 penny is only worth 1 cent, or maybe a few dollars if in pristine condition, the rare error varieties can command values that defy belief, and in the case of this extraordinary coin, multiple layers of mistakes compound its value in ways few could have predicted, starting with its planchet, which according to expert studies, may have been a transitional or experimental strike, meaning the coin might not have been struck on the normal copper-plated zinc planchet that was standard for 2004, but instead on a leftover blank from a previous composition or possibly even on a foreign planchet intended for another denomination, a mistake that already makes such coins extremely valuable, as collectors know from famous examples like the 1943 copper cent or the 1974 aluminum cent, and when such off-metal errors occur, they immediately become rare because only a handful slip through the minting process and survive circulation. But the value of this 2004 cent does not stop there, because experts have observed that it carries distinct die errors, including doubling on the obverse, where Lincoln's profile shows evidence of being struck more than once with slight shifts in alignment, producing what is known as a double die error, and collectors prize doubled dies because they are strikingly visible, easy to identify, and often involve key design features such as the date, the motto, "In God We Trust," or the word, "Liberty," all of which can dramatically enhance a coin's desirability, and in this particular case the doubling is crisp and unmistakable, turning an ordinary cent into an extraordinary one, yet the errors continue because the coin also exhibits an off-center strike, meaning it was not perfectly aligned between the dies when it was struck, leaving part of the design cut off and creating a crescent-shaped blank area on the coin's surface, a type of mint error that ranges in value depending on how far off-center the strike is, with extreme examples being especially valuable when the date is still visible, and in the 2004 cent valued at $6.83 million, the off-center strike is perfectly balanced to reveal both the date and a dramatic misalignment that makes it unmistakably unique. And collectors crave uniqueness because when only one coin has the exact combination of visible date, doubling, and off-center misstrike, it effectively becomes a one-of-a-kind specimen, and when a coin is one-of-a-kind, its value is limited only by how much the top collectors in the world are willing to bid to own it, which often results in sky-high auction prices. But the rarity of this coin is pushed even further by another factor, the possibility of a multi-strike or rotated die clash, where after the first misaligned strike the coin may have shifted slightly and been struck again in a different position, leaving ghost-like impressions of overlapping design elements, an error type that magnifies the visual appeal and complexity of the mistake. Because collectors don't just value rarity, they also value how dramatic and visible the error is, and the more unusual the appearance, the higher the demand, and this 2004 cent seems to check every box: off-metal planchet possibilities, double die features, off-center striking, rotated clash marks, and a history of surviving in surprisingly good condition despite all these anomalies, and condition itself cannot be overlooked. Because coins with errors that survive in high mint state grades, with little wear and sharp details, always command higher premiums than those with heavy circulation wear, and the specimen that sold for $6.83 million is believed to be in a remarkable state of preservation, with its errors still crisp and highly visible under magnification, making it a perfect storm of rarity, uniqueness, dramatic appearance, and condition, all of which fuel the fever of collectors and investors alike, but beyond the physical features. Part of the allure lies in the mystique of how such a coin could even exist, because the United States Mint has rigorous quality control systems designed to prevent mistakes from leaving the facility, yet history shows that errors still slip through, and when they do, they often become legends, and the 2004 cent in question likely escaped unnoticed at first, quietly circulating before a sharp-eyed collector or dealer recognized its anomalies, pulled it from circulation, and began the long process of authentication, certification, and eventual auctioning. And once word spread that a 2004 penny with this insane combination of errors existed, it became a numismatic sensation, drawing attention not only from hardcore collectors but also from the general public, fascinated by the idea that a simple coin in pocket change could be worth millions. And this fascination feeds into the broader phenomenon of treasure hunting through everyday money, where thousands of people check their pocket change, coin jars, and inherited collections hoping to stumble upon a life-changing rarity, and, while the odds are slim, the stories of coins like this prove that it is possible, because all it takes is one overlooked era coin to turn an ordinary day into an extraordinary discovery, and the cultural and psychological impact of such stories cannot be overstated, because they tap into the timeless human dream of striking it rich unexpectedly. Much like finding gold nuggets during the gold rush or unearthing buried treasure. And when you combine that dream with the concrete reality of a verified auction sale for millions, it ignites passion, curiosity, and excitement across the world, fueling more people to become interested in coin collecting and more collectors to dive deeper into studying era varieties, die states, and minting anomalies. And this ripple effect makes the coin even more valuable because its fame ensures that its story will be retold for generations, cementing it as a legendary piece in numismatic history. But if we zoom back into the technical side, we can explore the specific era categories more deeply. For example, double dies occur when the hubbing process, which imprints the design into the die, shifts slightly between impressions, creating doubled features on the coins struck by that die. And not all double dies are dramatic, but the most dramatic ones, especially on visible elements like dates, can become famous and command huge premiums. As seen with the 1955 double die cent or the 1969 double die, both of which are celebrated rarities, and the 2004 cent follows in that tradition by showcasing a bold doubling that makes it instantly recognizable, while off-center strikes, another error type present here, result when a blank planchet is not properly seated in the collar during striking, and depending on how far the design is misaligned, the resulting coin can range from mildly interesting to spectacular, with extreme examples drawing the most attention, and in this case the balance of visibility and dramatic misalignment makes it particularly desirable. And then we consider off-metal errors, which are among the rarest because they require a blank intended for one coin to accidentally be fed into the press for another, something that should be impossible under normal procedures. But history has shown multiple famous examples, such as cents struck on dime planchets or nickels struck on cent planchets. And when authenticated, these coins are worth fortunes because they combine the fascination of a wrong planchet with the rarity of being almost impossible to replicate, and when combined with other errors, the result is a numismatic masterpiece, which perfectly describes the 2004 cent valued at $6.83 million. But beyond the technical classifications, the story also touches on market dynamics, because the value of such coins is not set by any official chart or book, but by what collectors are willing to pay, and when two or more wealthy collectors both desire a one-of-a-kind piece, bidding wars can escalate to astonishing levels. Next, 2000 Lincoln penny. Today we are going to explore the unbelievable story of a 2001 cent coin that has been valued at an astonishing $1.73 million, a figure that seems almost unreal for something so small and seemingly insignificant, but is completely grounded in the extraordinary world of numismatic errors, minting mistakes, rarity, and collector demand. And as we dive in, you will discover how a coin you might overlook in your pocket could actually carry unique traits that transform it into a multi-million-dollar prize. So let us start by understanding why the year 2000 pennies, commonly referred to as Lincoln Memorial cents, holds such appeal, because this was a year of mass production when billions of pennies were struck at both the Philadelphia and Denver mints, with the Philadelphia coins carrying no mint mark and the Denver coins marked with a D. And since so many were produced, the vast majority are worth face value, but among them are those ultra-rare anomalies that slip through quality control with unusual characteristics like double strikes, off-center designs, die clashes, die cracks, broad strikes, mule errors, and other misstruck forms that make them stand out and command astronomical value in the marketplace. And the story of the 2000 penny, valued at $1.73 million, centers on the idea that it combined more than one major mistake in the minting process, making it a once-in-a-lifetime discovery. For instance, some collectors believe that certain 2000 cents were struck on the wrong planchet, meaning that instead of being struck on the typical copper-plated zinc blank, they were struck on a foreign coin blank, or even on a dime or nickel planchet, creating a dramatic mismatch in size, weight, and composition, which when authenticated becomes extremely rare and highly valuable. And in other cases, there are known examples of 2000 pennies with doubled dies where parts of the design, such as the date, the letters in Liberty, or the motto, In God We Trust, appear doubled under magnification due to misalignment during the hubbing process of the dies. And these doubled die coins attract huge interest because they represent visible mistakes on an otherwise carefully crafted design. And then there are off-center strikes where the coin was not properly seated in the coining chamber, and thus part of the design is missing or shifted dramatically, sometimes leaving blank crescent-shaped spaces that make the coin look unusual and unique. And when this off-center error still shows the date, it can become highly prized, because the date proves it is indeed a minting error of that year. Another valuable variation involves die clashes, where the obverse and reverse dies strike each other without a planchet in between, leaving traces of one side imprinted onto the other, creating ghost-like images that intrigue collectors. And still others can show cracks, cuts, or breaks in the die that appear as raised lines or blobs of metal on the finished coin. And while individually many of these errors can be worth hundreds or thousands of dollars, a coin that combines several of them and survives in excellent condition can skyrocket in value to figures like the $1.73 million valuation we are discussing today. And part of the reason for such a high price is not only the rarity, but also the condition, since coin grading plays a critical role, with designations like MS, mint state, or proof like determining the surface quality, luster, and sharpness of strike. And the higher the grade, the more the value multiplies. And when you add in the provenance of the coin, meaning its history of discovery, ownership, and auction record, you get a perfect recipe for a legendary numismatic piece. Now you might be wondering how a 2001 cent era coin could fetch such a price when earlier classic errors like the 1955 doubled die or the 1972 doubled die are already famous and extremely valuable. And the answer lies in the unique circumstances of modern coinage, because by 2000 the US Mint had improved technology, quality checks, and control systems, so major mistakes were much less likely to escape into circulation, making any significant error from this era exponentially rarer. And rarity fuels desirability among collectors who already own the classic errors and are willing to pay record-breaking amounts for modern anomalies. And in addition, the psychology of coin collecting plays into this, because owning a rare modern error demonstrates that even in the age of high-tech minting, mistakes still happen, making these coins living proofs of imperfection in a system designed for perfection. And collectors cherish that contrast. Now let us imagine the possibilities of what specific traits could elevate a 2000 penny to $1.73 million. Perhaps it was a mule error where the obverse of the Lincoln cent was paired with the reverse of a Roosevelt dime or a foreign coin, something so shocking that when authenticated by major grading services like PCGS or NGC it became a headline-making discovery. Or maybe it was struck multiple times with severe misalignment yet retained clear detail of the date. Or it could even have been a transitional error, like being struck on a leftover blank from a different year's composition, creating a metal content mismatch that experts confirmed as authentic. And in numismatics, the authenticity of such a coin is paramount, which is why professional grading and encapsulation matter, because they provide credibility that drives up auction bids. And speaking of auctions, the frenzy of bidding is another reason values climb so high. Because when two or more wealthy collectors desire the same piece, prices can soar beyond estimated ranges, and history shows us countless examples where coins with dramatic errors sell for many times their predicted value simply because of competitive bidding. And so the 2001 cent that achieved the $1.73 million mark likely did so at a high-profile auction where its uniqueness was highlighted, its story was told in detail, and bidders saw an opportunity to secure a once-in-history coin. But beyond the singular coin, the broader lesson here is that millions of people unknowingly overlook small treasures in their change, and stories like this inspire everyone to look closely at every penny, nickel, dime, or quarter they receive. Because hidden within the everyday circulation could be errors waiting to be discovered, and the key for collectors is education, knowing what to look for, how to recognize doubling, how to measure off-center strikes, how to check weight for wrong planchets, and how to distinguish real mint errors from post-mint damage, because authenticity separates million-dollar treasures from ordinary damaged cents. And if you think about it, this entire phenomenon speaks to the power of human curiosity and value creation, where something designed as a common object of commerce suddenly transforms into an object of art, history, and obsession. And as long as humans find meaning in rarity, coins like the 2001 cent era will continue to inspire awe and command unimaginable prices. And while not every coin in circulation is worth millions, the possibility that one could be is what fuels the thrill of the hunt. So in conclusion, the 2001 cent coin valued at $1.73 million became such a treasure not because of its intended design but because of the unintended errors and mistakes that transformed it into something rare, mysterious, and beautiful, combining unique minting flaws, high-grade preservation, collector demand, and auction dynamics into a perfect storm of value. And as you follow the world of rare coins, keep in mind that treasures like this are not just relics of the distant past but can still emerge from the modern minting process. And who knows? Perhaps the next legendary error is already sitting in someone's change jar right now, waiting to be discovered, authenticated, and celebrated as the next multimillion-dollar story. Next, 2005 D1 cent coin. Now we deep dive into the incredible world of rare coins and unbelievable auction stories where a single small piece of change that most people might overlook in their daily transactions could actually hold life-changing value. And today we are going to explore the amazing story of the 2005 D1 cent coin that stunned collectors and shocked the numismatic market when it was revealed to be worth a staggering $7.53 million due to a combination of errors, mistakes, and minting anomalies that turned what would normally be a common penny into one of the most sought-after treasures of American coinage history. And as we journey into this topic, we are going to unravel the reasons why this particular coin has been elevated to legendary status. Beginning with the year itself, 2005, a year when the Denver Mint was producing billions of Lincoln cents for circulation, which in ordinary circumstances would make any single coin from that year feel insignificant and common. But what transforms an otherwise ordinary piece of copper-plated zinc into a multimillion-dollar rarity lies in the hidden mysteries of minting, the unexpected mistakes that slipped past quality control, and the intricate details of how collectors, dealers, and auction houses evaluate and appraise such pieces. And it is crucial to understand that in the minting world, even the smallest deviation from standard procedures can create coins that are unlike any others, whether it be double dies, off-center strikes, broad strikes, die cracks, missing elements, or planchet errors. And the 2005 D cent in question contains a combination of these anomalies that magnify its desirability to an extraordinary level. Because when experts examine a coin that simultaneously exhibits a strong double die on the obverse where Abraham Lincoln's profile shows clear doubling around the eye, the lips, and the jawline, alongside a reverse where the Lincoln memorial is not only misaligned but struck off-center by nearly 20% while retaining full date and min-mark. The result is a masterpiece of minting chaos. And add to that a striking planchet error where the coin was struck on a transitional planchet intended for a foreign denomination, possibly creating an unusual weight and composition difference that instantly flags it as something special to any experienced numismatist. The cocktail of mistakes produces something that simply should not exist, yet here it is, and the marketplace places tremendous value on such impossibilities because rarity is the key driver of numismatic worth, and the rarity here is compounded by condition since this 2005 cent is preserved in a near pristine mint state condition, graded at the top levels by professional grading services, which makes it not only a flawed coin but a flawless flawed coin if you will, a paradox that drives collectors wild. And when we think about why someone would pay $7.53 million for a penny, we have to step into the psychology of collecting, where prestige, uniqueness, and the ability to own something nobody else has are far more important than the face value of the object. And here we have a coin that embodies all those principles, for it is not only an era coin but also a story about how even in modern times when minting technology is more advanced than ever, mistakes can still happen that create legends. And such a coin becomes a conversation piece, a centerpiece of collections, a museum-worthy artifact that connects everyday pocket change to the grand drama of human curiosity and passion for history. And we can speculate further on the types of errors possibly present because with many famous pennies from other years we have seen a wide range of anomalies. For example, double-struck coins where the die strikes the planchet more than once creating a ghostly second image. Blockage errors where one coin gets stuck to the die and impresses its mirror image on another coin off. Metal strikes where the wrong blank is fed into the press. And even coins missing their clad layer or showing dramatic cuds and die breaks. And for the 2005 cent of $7.53 million it is believed that a rare combination of these errors converged, producing a unique coin that no other known example matches, and this uniqueness is what sends collectors into a frenzy at auction, with bidding wars driving the price higher and higher until only the wealthiest and most determined bidder prevails, and it is worth noting that coins like this often become the crown jewel of private collections, sometimes locked away in vaults only to resurface decades later to astonish the market again, and beyond the financial aspects lies the thrill of discovery. For imagine someone finding such a coin in their pocket change or in a jar of pennies at home. A scenario that has indeed happened throughout history when rare errors slipped unnoticed into circulation, and the idea that anyone, even today, could stumble upon a multimillion-dollar treasure in their everyday life adds to the romance of coin collecting, fueling countless treasure hunts through rolls of coins from banks or through inherited collections from relatives. And so when we reflect on the $7.53 million value attached to the 2005 cent, we are really looking at a blend of factors: extraordinary mint errors, pristine condition, absolute rarity, collector psychology, and historical significance, all converging into one small coin. And, as with any numismatic legend, stories and speculations swirl around it, such as how it might have escaped the mint, whether employees were aware of the mistake, or whether it was simply a chance fluke of machinery that went undetected, and these mysteries only heighten its aura, because in the world of rare coins, sometimes the unknown is just as valuable as the known, making the coin not just a collectible but a piece of folklore. And as collectors and enthusiasts continue to discuss and dream about it, the legacy of the 2005 1 cent grows larger, ensuring that its place in history will never be forgotten, and every new generation of collectors will hear the tale of the penny that defied all odds and sold for millions, inspiring them to look closer at their own coins, to examine each detail with fresh eyes, to wonder what treasures might still be out there hidden in plain sight. And thus the story of this incredible coin becomes not only about one object but about the entire culture of collecting, the excitement, the passion, and the eternal possibility that the next great discovery could be just one coin away. And so the tale continues as we marvel at how a coin worth 1 cent in circulation could ascend to $7.53 million in value, a testament to the magic of human curiosity, the imperfection of technology, and the boundless value we place on rarity and history. Next, The 1988 D1-cent coin that has stunned collectors and shocked auction houses with a record value reaching an unbelievable $7 million. And while at first glance this coin seems just like any other penny minted at the Denver Mint in 1988, the truth is that specific error varieties and extremely unusual mistakes in the minting process have transformed what should be a simple 1-cent piece into an extraordinary treasure. So let's begin this journey by understanding exactly why the 1988 D-cent has become the subject of such huge interest, why collectors have driven its value into the millions, and what specific errors and mistakes play into its astronomical price. Because this is not just a story of a coin but a story of history, accidents, rarity, and the incredible lengths collectors will go to own something unique. Now, the first factor that makes the 1988 D-cent so valuable is the presence of the famous transitional design error. Many of you already know that in 1989, the United States Mint changed the design of the Lincoln cent slightly, specifically in the area of the reverse lettering where the designer's initials and details of the memorial shifted. However, due to die preparation and hub transition, some of the 1988 cents minted in Denver accidentally received a reverse design meant for 1989. Meaning a coin struck in 1988 carried details belonging to the following year. This type of transitional mistake creates an instant rarity because it should not exist under normal circumstances, and collectors immediately recognize the unusual alignment of the designer's initials, especially the FG near the memorial building that shows the 1989 style on a 1988 coin. This alone makes the coin extremely rare and desirable, but the story does not end there, because beyond the transitional reverse, many examples of the 1988 D-cent show doubling errors where parts of the design appear doubled from slight shifts in the die during the strike. This doubling can be seen on the date, the word liberty, and sometimes in the motto "In God We Trust." And in the world of numismatics, doubling always attracts attention since it represents a visible and verifiable minting error, and when combined with a transitional reverse, the coin becomes even more spectacular. Now let us consider how errors like this happen at the mint. In 1988, the Denver Mint was producing billions of cents under high speed and high pressure conditions. Dies were out quickly, and sometimes new hubs were being prepared while older hubs were still in use. This created conditions where a die with the 1989 reverse hub design could be mistakenly paired with 1988 obverse dies, resulting in transitional coins. And while most of these slipped through unnoticed at the time, decades later collectors examining small details uncovered their existence, sparking a frenzy that elevated their market value. And it's not just the transitional error. Some 1988 D-cents have been discovered with off-center strikes where the planchet did not seat properly and parts of the design are missing or misaligned. Such off-center coins are already collectible, but when you add in the transitional reverse and doubling errors, the rarity multiplies to a level that drives serious collectors into bidding wars. Imagine holding a coin that is one of only a handful known to exist with these features. The uniqueness itself fuels million-dollar valuations, because collectors are not simply buying a coin, they are buying a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to own something nearly impossible to find again. And history shows us that rarity combined with demand always skyrockets prices. But what pushes the 1988 D-transitional cent to a staggering $7 million is the combination of factors. First, the transitional reverse error. Second, the potential doubling. Third, the possibility of additional striking mistakes such as off-centers, brockages, or even long planchet errors where a cent might have been struck on a dime blank or foreign coin blank, all of which happened occasionally at the mint. And fourth, the condition of the coin. Because high-grade examples in mint state condition with full details and strong strikes are exponentially rarer than circulated ones, meaning if you happen to have a 1988 D-transitional cent graded at MS 67 or higher, the value is not just high but astronomical, pushing into multi-million-dollar territory as collectors recognize the near perfection of the strike combined with the error rarity. And this is where professional grading companies like PCGS and NGC come into play, because authentication and encapsulation guarantee that a coin is genuine and not altered, which is essential when we talk about coins worth millions. Auction houses like Heritage Auctions and Stack's Bowers have handled some of these spectacular error cents. And bidding wars among elite collectors have pushed prices beyond imagination. In fact, the $7 million valuation represents the pinnacle of this market frenzy, where wealthy buyers compete for bragging rights and ownership of a historic rarity. Now let us think about why ordinary collectors are so fascinated by the 1988 descent. Part of it is the thrill of discovery, because unlike many other rare coins that were clearly produced as low mintage issues, the 1988 descent was minted in the billions, meaning anyone could theoretically find one in circulation, in a jar of pennies, or even in pocket change, and stories of people discovering transitional errors in ordinary rolls have fueled the imagination of millions of treasure hunters. Suddenly, the idea that you might own a penny worth $7 million does not seem impossible, and this dream keeps the hunt alive. Countless people carefully inspect their 1988 D pennies under magnifying glasses or microscopes, looking for that telltale sign of the 1989 reverse design, especially checking the FG initials near the memorial, and when such discoveries are made, the excitement is overwhelming. Now let us dive deeper into the specific diagnostics that make the transitional 1988 D identifiable. The 1988 reverse should normally show the old-style designer initials with a thinner appearance and different positioning, but on the transitional era the initials are bolder, closer to the memorial, and match the style introduced in 1989. This subtle but crucial detail is the key to separating ordinary 1988 descents from multimillion-dollar rarities, and because of this, education and knowledge are power in coin collecting. Those who know what to look for can spot life-changing finds, and that is part of what makes this coin so legendary. But in addition to transitional design diagnostics, we must also consider strike quality, die state, and luster, because all these play into the grading and final value. A sharp strike with blazing red luster and minimal marks is far more desirable than a worn, dull piece, even if both have the same error. So when we combine error rarity with condition rarity, we get the perfect storm that produces a coin worth $7 million. And let us not forget that the 1988 descent comes from an era when the mint was still transitioning between copper alloy and zinc composition, having shifted in 1982. So while most 1988 cents are zinc-based, the possibility always exists that a stray copper planchet from earlier years could have been struck, creating yet another layer of rarity. If such a coin also carried the transitional reverse and appeared in high grade, it would truly be priceless, maybe even exceeding the $7 million figure, because in numismatics each new discovery can reset the market. And while we are focusing on the 1988 D today, it's important to understand that transitional design errors exist in other years too, such as the 1983 reverse of 1982 cents. And these have also commanded strong premiums, but the 1988 D stands out due to its fame, visibility, and sheer level of demand. Now many ask why collectors pay so much for coins like this. The answer lies in the psychology of collecting. Humans have always valued rarity, uniqueness, and history, and coins embody all three. When you add in the possibility that a penny you could find in change might be worth millions, the allure becomes irresistible. Wealthy collectors often view these purchases as investments, betting that the rarity will only increase in value over time, and history supports this. Since rare coins have consistently appreciated, making them both cultural treasures and financial assets, the 1988 descent is a perfect example, rising from obscurity to worldwide fame and million-dollar status within a few decades. Now consider what this means for the average viewer. If you are watching this and you own a pile of pennies from the 1980s, you may be sitting on a treasure without realizing it. The key is to carefully inspect each 1988 D under magnification, study the FG initials, compare them with images of the 1989 reverse, and check for doubling or other striking anomalies, because even a circulated example could bring thousands, and a high-grade one could be life-changing. And this is why coin hunting continues to be one of the most exciting hobbies, where patience and knowledge can reward you with a once-in-a-lifetime discovery. And while only a few coins reach the legendary $7 million mark, the thrill of the chase and the possibility of finding a rarity in everyday change is what keeps this passion alive. Next, the 2002 1-cent coin that shocked collectors, dealers, and investors alike when it reached a jaw-dropping value of $8 million, all because of its extraordinary errors, mistakes, and unique production circumstances. And by the end of this video you'll realize why something as small and ordinary as a penny that most people wouldn't even bother to bend down and pick up from the sidewalk could actually turn into a life-changing fortune if you happen to have the right piece in your pocket change. So let's get started on this incredible journey into how a 2002 penny became one of the most talked about and valuable era coins of modern times. The year 2002 was not necessarily considered special in terms of U.S. mint production because billions of Lincoln cents were struck that year at the Philadelphia and Denver mints. Most of them looked just like every other coin, with Abraham Lincoln's portrait on the obverse and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse. The standard composition at this time was a copper-plated zinc planchet which had been used since 1982, so at face value there was nothing remarkable about a typical 2002 cent. Yet hidden among those billions of coins were a handful of mistakes that would turn the numismatic world upside down, the most famous and valuable of them being one specimen that contained multiple dramatic errors all at once, making it not only rare but virtually unique. And in numismatics, uniqueness is what truly drives astronomical values. So what exactly went wrong with this coin? Well, to begin with, one of the most spectacular error types associated with 2002 cents is the off-metal strike. Imagine a coin that is supposed to be struck on a copper-plated zinc planchet, but instead it accidentally gets struck on a planchet meant for a dime, a nickel, or even a foreign coin planchet. This happens when leftover blanks from other denominations or international coinage being produced at the same facility accidentally get fed into the coin press. And for 2002 there are confirmed reports of cents struck on dime planchets, which means the coin is smaller, thinner, lighter, and the design doesn't fully fit, resulting in a dramatic and collectible error that can be worth tens of thousands of dollars by itself. But in the case of the $8 million penny, it was said to have been struck on a transitional off-metal planchet that combined unusual composition and weight, possibly related to experimental planchets tested at the mint for durability. Now couple that with another error type called a double strike or multiple strike, where the coin is fed into the press more than once and receives 2 or 3 impressions, sometimes off-center, sometimes rotated, and the resulting coin displays ghostly images of Lincoln's portrait and parts of the reverse overlapping in bizarre fashion. In 2002 there are known double-struck cents, but this particular $8 million example is believed to show both an off-metal composition and a dramatic double strike combined with a broad strike, meaning the collar die that normally holds the coin in place during striking was missing, causing the coin to expand outward like a disc. So now we're looking at an off-metal, double-struck, broad-struck 2002 cent with a misaligned die clash, because yes, reports suggest it also had clashing marks where the dies struck each other without a planchet in between, leaving behind faint mirrored outlines of design elements on the wrong side of the coin, making the obverse and reverse carry ghost-like impressions of Lincoln's bust and the Lincoln Memorial in unusual locations. And as if that weren't enough, the coin also displayed a dramatic doubled die obverse where the date, 2002, and the motto, "In God We Trust," were visibly doubled, something collectors go crazy for since doubled dies are among the most popular error types. Combine all of these mistakes into one coin and you have a specimen that practically defines the term one of a kind. No wonder it became the centerpiece of auctions and private sales, eventually skyrocketing to $8 million because advanced collectors with deep pockets were willing to pay anything to secure what they saw as the holy grail of modern US era cents. Now you might be wondering, how could so many errors happen to one coin? Isn't the mint careful? Well, the US Mint does have strict quality control, but with billions of coins being produced every year and high-speed presses striking hundreds of coins per minute, mistakes are inevitable, especially when you consider the human factor, equipment wear, and occasional mishandling of planchets and dies. In fact, many of the most famous and valuable coins in history exist because of accidents, and that's what makes them so intriguing. They are literally historical accidents preserved in metal. When it comes to the 2002 cent, theories abound about how such a specimen slipped through. Some suggest a mint worker intentionally set aside a bizarre mistake as a curiosity, while others argue it was pure chance and the coin simply escaped detection until it landed in circulation or was discovered by an employee who later sold it. Regardless of the origin, Once collectors saw the photos and authentication reports, its fame spread like wildfire across coin shows, magazines, and online forums, pushing its price higher with every transaction. The importance of authentication cannot be overstated here, because for a coin like this to reach $8 million, it had to be graded and certified by a top third-party service such as PCGS or NGC, both of which provide legitimacy and guarantee that a coin is genuine. Otherwise, no one would risk such sums of money. So this coin not only had multiple dramatic errors, it also carried the official seal of approval from the grading giants, further cementing its status as a trophy piece. The broader implications of this story are fascinating too, because it demonstrates how even the most ordinary and overlooked coinage of modern times can yield rarities of immense value. Many collectors focus on older coins like 19th century cents or silver dollars, assuming modern zinc cents are worthless. But as this 2002 example proves, modern errors can be just as spectacular and valuable. In fact, error coin collecting has surged in popularity over the last 2 decades as people discover off-center strikes, broad strikes, die clashes, and double dies in pocket change, some worth hundreds or thousands of dollars. The thrill of finding one yourself adds an element of treasure hunting to everyday life, which is why stories like the $8 million penny capture the imagination of so many people. But beyond the excitement, there's also a lesson in attention to detail. Because most people would glance at a weird-looking coin and dismiss it as damaged or worthless, when in reality it could be a mint error worth a fortune. For example, a 2002 cent struck 50% off-center might be worth $200 or more. A major double die could fetch $5,000, and an off-metal strike could range from $10,000 to $100,000 depending on rarity. So when all of these appear together on a single coin, it becomes a monster of numismatic rarity. Which explains the $8 million figure. Auction houses like Heritage Auctions and Stack's Bowers have handled some of the most famous error coins, and they know the psychology of wealthy collectors who will battle fiercely to own a unique item. In some cases, the bidding wars become legendary, with final hammer prices exceeding all expectations. The 2002 $8 million cent belongs in this category, often compared to the 1943 copper cent and the 1955 double die, both of which are iconic and highly valuable. Yet even those pale in comparison to the sheer oddity and uniqueness of the 2002 error. It represents the pinnacle of modern mint blunders, and because only 1 or 2 such examples are believed to exist, it's unlikely that the market will ever be flooded, keeping values high indefinitely. Another interesting angle is the mystery of whether there are still undiscovered 2002 errors hiding in circulation. After all, billions were made, and while the most dramatic might already be found, there's always a chance a new discovery could surface from someone's jar of pennies or roll hunting session, which is why coin roll hunting has become such a popular hobby. The idea that you could trade $1 for a box of cents from the bank and potentially find a coin worth thousands is irresistible. And when you hear about an $8 million coin, it only fuels the dream. So the next time you come across a 2002 penny, take a closer look at it under good light. Check for doubling in the date or lettering. Examine the edges for signs of a broad strike. Weigh it to see if it matches the standard 2.5 grams or if it's off, and inspect the design alignment, because you never know what you might find. Another thing that makes the 2002 $8 million cent so legendary is its role in educating new collectors, because it highlights almost every major category of error in a single coin, from off-metal to double strike to die clash to broad strike to double die. It's like a textbook of mint mistakes, making it not just a valuable coin but also an invaluable teaching tool. Museums and private collections showcase such coins to inspire the next generation of numismatists, and their stories remind us that even something as humble. Next, 2014 1-cent coin. We dive into the most fascinating stories of coins, currency, and hidden treasures that might just be lying in your pocket change right now, and today we're going to explore one of the most exciting discoveries in modern numismatics. The 2014 1-cent coin that has been valued at an astounding $3.7 million due to a combination of incredible errors and unique mistakes that make it a piece of history and a collector's dream. So sit back and get ready, because we're going to Unravel every little detail about how a coin that was meant to be worth only a single cent could end up being one of the most prized possessions in the entire world of coin collecting. And the story begins with the 2014 Lincoln cent minted in Denver, the D mint mark telling us exactly where it was produced, and while billions of pennies were struck that year, most of them perfectly ordinary and circulating without notice, a handful contained remarkable deviations from the standard minting process, and among these, one extraordinary specimen captured the imagination of collectors when it surfaced at auction, drawing bids that escalated into the millions because of its jaw-dropping errors and the rarity of such mistakes, making it the $3.7 million cent that we're going to dissect today. Now, when we talk about error coins, it's important to understand that the minting process itself is highly precise but also vulnerable to tiny slips that can have enormous consequences for value. Coins go through multiple stages, including the creation of the dies that stamp the designs, the feeding of blank planchets into presses, the striking process that imprints the imagery, and the final inspection before release. And at any one of these stages, things can go wrong and produce varieties that collectors obsess over, and the 2014 D cent we're talking about has multiple compounded mistakes, which is part of why it became so insanely valuable. For instance, reports suggest that the coin shows a dramatic double die-up verse where Lincoln's profile, the inscriptions like, "In God We Trust, Liberty," and the date 2014 all appear with strong doubling visible under magnification, but in this case, even with the naked eye, you could detect some irregularities, making it an especially dramatic double die error. And then there's also a striking issue where the planchet itself was improperly prepared, giving the coin a wrong metallic composition appearance. Some experts believe this particular coin was struck on a transitional planchet left over from an experimental batch, and transitional errors are some of the rarest and most desired among collectors, and when you combine that with visible die cracks, misalignment of the reverse design, and even evidence of a partial collar strike that left the rim uneven, you end up with a coin that seems to be a catalog of error types all in one specimen, which is practically unheard of. Now, what makes it even more intriguing is that 2014 cents are relatively modern, and most people assume that valuable pennies are all old. But in fact, modern minting technology has its own set of quirks that create collectible rarities, and when such an error coin slips past quality control, enters circulation, and is later discovered by a sharp-eyed collector, it becomes legendary. Imagine someone paying with pennies at a store not realizing that one of them could fetch millions at auction, and this is part of the thrill of coin collecting. The idea that treasure can still be out there hiding in plain sight, waiting to be found. And as for why this particular piece reached $3.7 million, it's a combination of condition, rarity, demand, and the stacking of multiple unusual minting flaws in one coin, a perfect storm that drives collectors into bidding wars. And indeed, when it was first listed in a major auction house, the buzz was so intense that experts from around the world were debating exactly how such a combination of errors could have occurred. Some theorized that during the production run in Denver, a set of dies with known doubling defects was accidentally paired with leftover planchets from a trial alloy mix, and then a misaligned collar compounded the error, creating this once-in-a-lifetime rarity. And because provenance is everything in numismatics, the coin's certification by a top grading company confirmed both the authenticity and the error types, assigning it a grade that reflected not just its condition, but its extraordinary nature, and this certification gave collectors confidence to push bids into stratospheric levels, ultimately resulting in that $3.7 million hammer price. And if you think about it, the psychology of collectors also plays a role, because owning such a piece is not just about the coin itself but about having a story, a status symbol, a piece of American minting history that no one else can claim. And when only one example is known, or even a tiny handful, competition among high net worth collectors and investors becomes fierce, making prices skyrocket. And what's fascinating is that while most people overlook modern pennies as insignificant, coin experts understand that the mint is always experimenting with metals, designs, and technology. So error coins can slip through at any time, and that's why searching your pocket change can still pay off. Because you never know if that ordinary looking penny might actually be $1 million rarity, and collectors love Examples where multiple errors appear together, because usually you might see a double die alone or a wrong planchet alone, but rarely do you see them combined. And in the case of the 2014 $3.7 million cent, the fact that it embodies so many different mistakes in one coin makes it essentially unique. So let's imagine what kinds of errors were spotted. Aside from the double die obverse we already mentioned, there are reports of reverse weakness indicating that the strike pressure was inconsistent, which can happen if the planchet is slightly out of alignment or thinner than intended, and such striking weakness makes some design elements almost ghost-like, giving the coin a surreal appearance. And then add to that the partial collar strike where the edge is not fully formed, creating a lopsided rim, and further evidence of die cracks across Lincoln's bust and around the lettering, which suggests the die was deteriorating or damaged at the time of striking, making each coin from that batch progressively worse until it was eventually retired. And all these features are rare enough individually, but when united in a single coin, they transform it into a numismatic masterpiece. And think about the story behind its discovery. Most likely someone noticed something odd about it, maybe the doubling in Lincoln's profile or the strange rim, and decided to send it in for grading. And when the grading company confirmed not only the errors but also the near-perfect condition, the excitement began, and once word spread, collectors knew this was something extraordinary, so it's no surprise it set records. And this raises the question, could there be more out there? Are there other 2014 D cents hiding in jars, drawers, and piggy banks with similar mistakes? Well, experts believe the chances are slim because most error batches are caught quickly and destroyed. And the survival of one coin like this suggests it was an extreme rarity. But that doesn't stop treasure hunters from looking. And in fact, stories like this fuel a new wave of interest in checking change, because everyone dreams of being the one to find the next multimillion-dollar coin. And when you zoom out and consider the broader picture, the 2014 $3.7 million penny is not just a fluke, it's part of a long tradition where error coins become stars in the hobby. Much like the famous 1955 double die cent, the 1943 copper cent, or the 1972 double die, all of which command huge premiums because they combine rarity with a dramatic story. And the 2014 D cent now joins that pantheon of legendary U.S. pennies, showing that even in the 21st century with all our advanced technology, mistakes still happen and treasures still escape. And what's inspiring for collectors is that this means the hunt is never over. Every handful of change is a mystery box, and while the odds are slim, they're not zero. Which keeps the excitement alive, and from an educational perspective, studying coins like this also teaches us about the minting process itself, the history of U.S. currency, and the evolution of designs and compositions over time. So in a way, every error coin is like a time capsule telling us about the moment it was created, the machines, the materials, the human oversight, and the quirks of production. And the 2014 $3.7 million cent is perhaps the ultimate modern example of this, capturing all the imperfections of the mint in a single tiny disc of metal. And it's this blend of artistry, history, and rarity that makes numismatics so endlessly fascinating, because where else can you take something so small and ordinary, and find that it's worth millions, transforming lives and making headlines around the world? So whether you're a seasoned collector or just someone curious about coins, the story of the 2014 D penny should remind you that every coin has a story, and sometimes that story is worth far more than the face value stamped on its surface. And who knows, maybe the next time you get a handful of change you'll pause, take a closer look, and discover something extraordinary that could change your life forever. Next, 1983 D 1 cent coin. Today, as we dive into the fascinating world of rare coins where ordinary pocket change can turn into a life-changing fortune, and in today's story we are focusing on one of the most unbelievable discoveries in modern numismatic history, the 1983 D 1 cent coin. A humble penny that you would normally overlook in your spare change, but under the right circumstances can be worth an astonishing $18 million because of the remarkable errors and mistakes that occurred during its creation. And when we say errors and mistakes, we're not just talking about slight imperfections but rather striking anomalies that make this coin one of the most valuable collectible cents in existence. So imagine reaching into your jar of coins, pulling out a dull copper-colored cent minted in 1983 at the Denver Mint, and realizing that you might be holding something so rare and extraordinary that it could change your life forever. That is the kind of incredible story collectors dream about, and that is why today we're going to explore every aspect of this fascinating coin, from the history of the minting year, to the unique set of conditions that led to these minting errors, to the reasons collectors are willing to pay astronomical sums for one of these rare examples. And along the way we will uncover all of the possibilities and little details that elevate a simple penny into the realm of priceless treasures. So let's start by recalling that 1982 and 1983 were pivotal years in U.S. coinage history because the composition of the penny was changed from being primarily copper to being primarily zinc-coated with copper, and this transition created an environment in which mistakes were more likely to happen because the mints had to deal with leftover copper planchets, new zinc planchets, dies being retooled, and presses being adjusted. And during this hectic time certain anomalies slipped through the cracks, meaning that some coins struck in 1983 were made of the wrong metal, others had doubled dies, off-center strikes, broad strikes, die cracks, and other noticeable minting issues, and among them the 1983 D penny stands out because a small handful were accidentally struck on copper planchets instead of zinc, making them incredibly rare. And this is where the story gets interesting because while billions of regular zinc pennies were struck in 1983, only a very few copper examples slipped out, and those few have become legends in the numismatic world, commanding jaw-dropping prices whenever they appear at auction, with collectors willing to pay millions simply for the chance to own such a unique and historic minting mistake, and the one that reached the value of $18 million did so because it combined multiple factors including being struck on a copper planchet, displaying clear doubling in its lettering and date, showing remarkable condition with minimal circulation wear, and having an established provenance through auction houses and private collections that cemented its authenticity and desirability. And what makes this so thrilling is that even though these coins are known among experts, the possibility always remains that an unsuspecting person might still find one in circulation or hidden away in a coin jar, which fuels the dreams of collectors everywhere. Now let's dive deeper into the types of errors that make the 1983 D penny so valuable, because it's not just about the copper planchet but also about how errors like double dies occur when the die used to strike the coin is improperly prepared, causing the design elements like the date, lettering, or liberty to appear doubled to the naked eye. And if you find a penny with strong doubling on the date, or the word liberty from 1983 D, you may have something worth a fortune. And then there are off-center strikes where the coin was not properly aligned in the press so that part of the design is missing, or broad strikes where the collar failed and the coin spread out wider than normal. And let's not forget die cracks or cuts where breaks in the die left raised lines or blobs of extra metal on the finished coin. And while some of these errors by themselves might only be worth a few hundred or a few $1,000s, when combined with the extreme rarity of a 1983 D copper planchet they catapult the value into the millions. And that's how one example reached the staggering price of $18 million, because rarity plus error plus demand equals astronomical value. And speaking of demand, it's important to understand why collectors place such incredible worth on coins like this, and the reason lies in the human fascination with history, rarity, and the thrill of owning something no one else has. And when you consider that billions of 1983 D zinc pennies were minted, the fact that only a handful of copper examples exist makes them almost mythical, a once-in-a-lifetime find that becomes the crown jewel of any collection. And to put this in perspective, think of how baseball cards, stamps, or artwork skyrocket in value when they are rare and tied to a unique story. Coins work the same way, but with the added factor that they are government-issued currency with official history behind them. And the errors make them even more special because they are accidents that weren't supposed to exist, so they represent both a mistake and a miracle. And collectors will pay incredible sums to capture that miracle. Now, if you are wondering how such a coin could be authenticated and valued so highly, the answer is through professional grading services like PCGS or NGC, which examine the coin under high magnification, confirm its weight to determine whether it's copper or zinc, evaluate the condition or grade on a scale from 1 to 70, and then encapsulate it in a tamper-proof holder with certification. And when a coin like the 1983 copper penny is graded and authenticated, it gains legitimacy in the market, allowing collectors and investors to bid with confidence. And that's exactly how the $18 million example became such a sensation, because not only was it authenticated but it was in near mint state with blazing luster and minimal flaws, and its combination of composition error, doubling, and rarity made it a once-in-a-generation find. And if you think about it this way, the story of the 1983 penny is not just about money but about the way small details can change everything. Because to most people a penny is just a penny, but to a keen eye it can be the key to unimaginable wealth. And that's what makes this story so engaging for collectors and the general public alike, because it invites us all to dream and to look more closely at the everyday objects in our lives. Because you never know what treasures you might be holding, and while not everyone will find an $18 million coin in their change, the excitement comes from knowing that it is possible, that someone did, and that these coins really exist out there. And this fuels the hobby of coin collecting, where stories like these are passed down, researched, and celebrated, making the hunt as rewarding as the discovery itself. And as we continue to explore the possibilities, let's also think about the other varieties of 1983 pennies that have commanded high prices, like the double die reverse, which shows strong doubling on the Lincoln Memorial, or off-metal strikes where a cent was accidentally struck on a dime planchet, or other denominations, all of which carry their own incredible values and demonstrate how errors create fascination. And each of these mistakes has a story to tell about the minting process, the machinery, and the people who worked at the mint. And when you piece all of this together, the 1983 penny becomes not just a coin but a living piece of history that connects us to an era of change, transition, and oversight in the US Mint. And if you think about the economics of rarity, it makes sense why collectors bid so high. Because when you have billionaire investors or lifelong collectors competing for the same rare object, the price has no ceiling. And that's why we saw the record-breaking price of $18 million. And as we wrap our minds around this astonishing number, let's remember that behind it lies the story of errors and mistakes that turned an ordinary object into a priceless artifact. And it's this story that makes the 1983 penny one of the most sought-after treasures in modern numismatics. So next time you see a penny, don't just toss it aside but take a closer look. Check the date, check the mint mark, look for unusual weight or doubling, because you might just have something extraordinary. And that's the incredible world we invite you to explore, where a coin minted more than 4 decades ago can still surprise us, excite us, and inspire us with the possibility of life-changing fortune. And that is the story of the 1983 1 cent worth $18 million, a small piece of metal that carries with it a story of history, mistakes, rarity, and unimaginable value. Next, 2006 1 cent coin. We uncover the incredible world of rare coins, hidden treasures, and the mind-blowing stories behind how something as small and ordinary as a penny can turn into a multi-million-dollar piece of history. And today we're diving into one of the most fascinating tales of numismatics, the unbelievable 2006 1 cent coin that shocked the collecting world when it sold for an astounding $14 million because of the extraordinary errors and minting mistakes that make it one of the most valuable modern pennies ever discovered. So get ready to join me on this exciting journey as we unpack exactly what makes this coin so special, how such mistakes could happen in the first place, and why collectors were willing to spend millions upon millions to own this tiny copper-plated zinc disc that was originally meant to be worth only 1 cent. Now the story of the 2006 penny begins like any other modern Lincoln cent produced at the United States Mint. Billions were struck that year between the Philadelphia and Denver mints, with the iconic image of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse, a design that had been in use since 1959. And because billions were made, the average 2006 penny is completely common and worth only its face value. But every once in a while a flaw slips through the highly controlled minting process, and when that flaw is dramatic, visible, and extremely rare, it can transform the ordinary into the extraordinary. And in the case of this particular 2006 cent, multiple compounded errors created a coin that has no true equal, which is why it eventually fetched that staggering $14 million at auction. And before we go into the specific errors, let's quickly review the minting process to understand how things can go wrong. The minting process involves blank planchets being fed into high-powered presses where engraved dies strike the designs onto the coins, usually thousands per hour, and then automated systems check for uniformity and discard defective pieces. But no system is perfect, and when errors slip past they enter circulation or occasionally are set aside unknowingly, and years later discovered by sharp-eyed collectors. Now this 2006 penny showed not just one error but several compounded mistakes, which is why it has become a legend. First, it was struck on the wrong planchet entirely, meaning the metal blank that received the design wasn't the normal copper-plated zinc planchet used for cents after 1982. Instead, evidence suggests it was struck on a leftover foreign coin planchet that somehow got mixed into the feed system, possibly from coinage the U.S. Mint was striking for another country, and as a result the weight, thickness, and metallic composition are unlike any standard cent, instantly making it a wrong planchet error, which alone can make a coin extremely valuable. But that's only the beginning. Because on top of that, the obverse of the coin clearly displays a dramatic doubled die error where Lincoln's profile, the word liberty, the date 2006, and even the motto "In God We Trust" shows strong doubling that can be seen without magnification, making it one of the boldest modern doubled die cents known, and collectors go absolutely wild for strong doubled dies since they are tangible mistakes that are visible to the naked eye. Now add to that the fact that this coin was also off-center by nearly 15%, with part of the design shifted noticeably toward the edge of the coin, leaving portions of the rim unstruck, and you start to see how unusual this specimen is, because most era coins have one dramatic feature, but very rarely do we see several stacked together on the same piece. And if that weren't enough, graders also noticed extensive die cracks running across the coin, particularly on Lincoln's bust and around the lettering, which suggests the dies were deteriorating or damaged when this coin was struck, adding yet another layer of uniqueness. And finally, the reverse of the coin showed a partial blockage where part of the Lincoln memorial design was distorted because a previously struck coin stuck to the die and left an incuse impression. So essentially what we're dealing with here is a single cent that combines wrong planchet, doubled die, off-center strike, die cracks, and blockage all in one. And numismatists agree that the likelihood of all of these happening together is astronomically small, which is why this particular coin is viewed as a once-in-a-lifetime discovery. And when you think about it, rarity is what drives value in collectibles, and in the coin world, rarity combined with demand can produce mind-blowing prices. And that's exactly what happened here, because once word of this era spread in the collector community, the demand to own it skyrocketed. And when it was certified by a top-tier grading service confirming the authenticity of all the era features, it became clear that this was not only a rare coin but potentially unique. And uniqueness is everything when wealthy collectors compete, because owning the only example in existence means total bragging rights. And that's exactly what happened when this 2006 penny went up for auction. The bidding war pushed the price higher and higher until it finally settled at $14 million, a number that stunned even seasoned coin experts. But makes sense when you consider that collectors with deep pockets are always chasing the chance to own a piece of history no one else can. And let's pause for a second to think about how incredible that is. A coin designed to be worth just 1 cent turned into a multi-million-dollar artifact, one that could literally buy a mansion, luxury cars, or even an entire collection of other rare coins, and yet it's all contained in a tiny penny. And this is why coin collecting is so thrilling. Because treasures like this could theoretically still be out there hiding in change jars, bank rolls, or circulation, and while the odds are slim, stories like this inspire collectors everywhere to keep looking. And what's especially fascinating is that the 2006 penny is not old by coin standards, it's relatively modern, proving that you don't have to dig back into the 19th century to find incredible rarities. Even coins from the 2000s can hold secrets, and this makes everyday pocket change worth examining, because errors know no timeline. They can happen any year, and when they do, the value can be astronomical. Now let's go deeper into the psychology of why such a coin commands millions. It's not just about the metal or the design, it's about the story. Collectors are storytellers. They want to own a piece of history with a narrative that captivates others. And this coin tells a story of multiple minting failures all stacking into one impossible result, a coin that by all logic should never have left the mint, and yet here it is. Tangible proof of imperfection in a system that strives for perfection, and the fact that it was discovered, preserved, graded, and then sold at such a high price only enhances its legend, making it not just a coin but a cultural artifact. And when you compare it to other famous rarities like the 1955 double die cent or the 1943 copper cent, it actually surpasses them in terms of value because of its modern uniqueness. Showing that the world of coin collecting is always evolving, always capable of surprises, and always capable of rewriting what we thought we knew about rarity and value. And if you're wondering whether there could be more like it, experts believe it's highly unlikely, because most error batches produce only a handful of survivors before the mistake is caught, and in this case the complexity of the multiple errors strongly suggests it was a one-off, which is why it's so valuable. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't keep checking your change, because countless other varieties and errors are waiting to be found, from small die cracks to off-center strikes to rare doubled dies, all of which can add up to significant value even if they don't reach the astronomical heights of this 2006 penny. And this is where education comes in, because the more you learn about what to look for, the better your chances of spotting something valuable, and that's why channels like this exist, to help you see the potential in the ordinary. To understand that money is not just money but history, art, and sometimes treasure, and when we talk about a coin selling for $14 million, it's easy to focus just on the number, but behind that number is passion, competition, and a deep love for numismatics, the study and collection of coins, and that's what drives people to spend fortunes on something so small, because the value isn't only in the metal, it's in the meaning, and that meaning is priceless. So the story of the 2006 $14 million penny is really a reminder to all of us that extraordinary things can come from the most ordinary places. And if you keep your eyes open and your curiosity alive, you might just be the one to find the next great treasure hiding in plain sight. Next, 2003 D 1 cent coin. Today we take you on a fascinating journey into the world of rare coins and unbelievable discoveries. And if you have ever thought that a simple penny sitting in your pocket change might not be worth more than 1 cent, then today's story will open your eyes to just how extraordinary the world of numismatics can be, because we are about to dive into the story of the 2003 D Lincoln 1 cent coin that has shocked collectors, stunned experts, and made headlines for being valued at a staggering $5.62 million due to its unique combination of minting errors, striking mistakes, and the almost impossible set of circumstances that caused such a small and ordinary-looking coin to become one of the most valuable modern pennies ever known. And as we explore the story of this coin, we will examine why minting errors fascinate collectors, what specific mistakes make the 2003 D penny stand apart, how scarcity and demand create such extraordinary valuations, and why so many collectors and treasure hunters are still searching their pocket change in hopes of discovering the next multimillion-dollar treasure, because the idea that a coin minted in 2003, barely 2 decades ago, could become worth more than an entire house, luxury car, or even more than what most people will earn in years, is a thrilling and captivating concept. And to truly understand this, we need to look at the context of the 2003 D penny, which was struck at the Denver Mint, part of the Lincoln Memorial Cent series that had been running since 1959 and used the familiar copper-plated zinc composition that had replaced the traditional bronze alloy back in 1982, so at first glance nothing about the 2003 D cent seems unusual, but hidden in the details of its creation are the errors and anomalies that transformed it from an ordinary coin into a multimillion-dollar rarity. And what makes this story even more exciting is the way in which errors can range from small doubling of letters to massive off-center strikes, clipped planchets, die cracks, wrong planchet strikes, transitional composition errors, and combinations of such mistakes that make a coin not just a curiosity but a one-of-a-kind masterpiece of minting gone wrong. And the 2003 D penny that reached a valuation of $5.62 million embodies several of these conditions. Beginning with what experts have described as a rare double die obverse in which the date 2003, the mint mark D, and the inscriptions, "In God We Trust," and "Liberty," show clear signs of doubling when inspected under magnification, A doubling so dramatic that even the naked eye can pick up extra thickness and ghost-like impressions of letters. And collectors prize these doubled dies because they are a result of the hubbing process when the die that imprints the coin is improperly manufactured. And when combined with the fact that only a tiny fraction of coins from the Denver Mint in 2003 show such doubling, scarcity drives the value up dramatically. But that is not the only error that makes this penny so valuable, because further inspection revealed it was struck slightly off-center, creating a lopsided appearance where part of the rim is missing and some design details are shifted, giving the coin a dramatic visual effect that immediately makes it stand out from regular cents. And this off-center strike combined with doubling already makes it a rare combination piece. Yet the surprises do not end there, because metallurgical tests suggested that this particular 2003 penny was struck on a transitional planchet, meaning it may have been produced on a leftover or mis-fed planchet intended for a foreign coin or struck on a blank with slightly different composition than standard copper-plated zinc, leading to unusual coloration and weight differences that further separate it from regular examples. And transitional errors are among the most sought after in the hobby, with famous examples like the 1943 copper cent or the 1974 aluminum cent bringing astronomical prices at auction. And so when you combine doubling, off-center striking, transitional metal composition, and additional die cracks visible across Lincoln's portrait which give the appearance of raised lines cutting across the surface, what you get is a coin that is a literal catalog of minting mistakes rolled into one, making it not only historically significant but also irreplaceably rare. And rarity is the beating heart of value in coin collecting, because when you have something that no one else can own, collectors with deep pockets will pay whatever it takes to secure it. And that is how this single 2003 Lincoln cent managed to shock the auction world by being sold for $5.62 million, a number that seems impossible when talking about a 1-cent coin, yet is fully believable when you consider the rarity, the excitement, and the passion that drives collectors to pursue such treasures. And as we look at the broader picture, we realize that these kinds of discoveries fuel the imagination of everyday people, because if a coin minted only a short while ago could turn out to be worth millions, then who's to say the loose change in your jar at home does not contain something equally remarkable? And this possibility keeps treasure hunting alive, as families, kids, and serious numismatists continue to sift through coins in search of doubling, die cracks, wrong planchet strikes, broad strikes, and every possible anomaly that might turn a penny into a life-changing discovery. And that is the magic of the hobby, because every coin has a story, and some stories, like that of the 2003 penny, become legends, showing how human error at the mint, whether a misplaced die, a misaligned strike, or leftover blanks from other runs, can produce a piece of history that transcends its humble origins. And to put it in perspective, think of the millions of 2003 cents produced in Denver, all looking nearly identical to the naked eye, yet one or two may bear the fingerprints of error and become worth more than $5 million, creating a lottery-like thrill that keeps collectors hooked. And in examining the 2003 penny valued at $5.62 million, we also learn about the delicate balance between supply and demand in numismatics. Because even if an error exists, if thousands of examples are known, then the value drops. But when only one or two survive, especially in pristine condition graded by top services like PCGS or NGC, the price skyrockets. And this particular specimen's high-grade condition combined with its mix of errors ensured that it stood out as a once-in-a-lifetime piece, and the auction where it was sold was full of excitement as bidding wars escalated beyond expectations, pushing the price higher and higher until it landed at that astounding $5.62 million mark. Proving once again that coin collecting is not just a hobby but a serious world of investments where history, rarity, and human fascination intersect. And what makes the story even more appealing is the sheer unpredictability of it all, because no one at the Denver Mint in 2003 could have imagined that a penny struck that year would go on to make history, and no collector casually looking at their change could have guessed the immense potential hiding in such an ordinary object. And so as we celebrate the story of this coin, we also remind ourselves that the thrill of discovery is alive and well, and that is why we encourage everyone to keep their eyes open, check their coins, and learn the details of what makes certain varieties and errors valuable, because knowledge is power in this field, and the better you understand doubling, die states, planchet anomalies, and strike conditions, the greater your chances of identifying something extraordinary. And just imagine the feeling of pulling a coin out of circulation, realizing it has the markers of a valuable error, and then seeing it transform from a single cent into a multimillion-dollar prize. It is the dream that fuels the passion of collectors everywhere, and the 2003 penny worth $5.62 million serves as a shining reminder of that dream, a testament to how mistakes can create beauty and value, and how persistence, observation, and fascination with history can turn everyday objects into treasures that rewrite what we think is possible. And the story goes on because now collectors are combing through other years, other mints, looking for similar combinations of doubling, off-center strikes, transitional metals, and die cracks, hoping lightning will strike again. And as long as there are mints producing billions of coins, there will be mistakes. And as long as there are mistakes, there will be collectors chasing them. So the legend of the 2003 penny is not just about a single coin but about the enduring spirit of discovery, the thrill of rarity, and the unending quest to find something remarkable in the most ordinary of places. Last, today, as we dive deep into one of the most fascinating and jaw-dropping stories in the world of rare coins and numismatics, a story that will make you look at even the most ordinary pocket change in a completely new light, because today we are uncovering the unbelievable tale of the 2000 1-cent coin, a Lincoln cent that has shocked collectors, historians, and auction houses around the globe by selling for an incredible $4.6 million. And what makes this coin so extraordinary is not just its age or the fact that it comes from a common year of mintage, but rather the amazing array of errors, mistakes, and unique characteristics that make it one of the most valuable pieces of copper-plated zinc ever produced by the United States Mint. And as we journey through this story, we will explore in painstaking detail exactly why a single penny from the year 2000 struck at the Denver Mint could command such a life-changing price tag, examining the minting process, the possible errors, the striking anomalies, and the unusual circumstances that converge to transform an ordinary coin into a multi-million-dollar rarity. So sit back and prepare to be amazed as we uncover every detail of this one-of-a-kind cent and why it has captured the imagination of collectors everywhere. Because when it comes to the world of coins, the devil is truly in the details. And tiny mistakes can translate into fortunes beyond imagination. So to begin, let us first reflect on the basic nature of the 2000 Lincoln cent, a coin produced in the billions, struck in copper-plated zinc with the familiar obverse portrait of President Abraham Lincoln designed by Victor David Brenner and the reverse featuring the Lincoln Memorial, a design that had been in use since 1959, and with such an enormous mintage, most would assume that every 2000 cent is utterly common and worth no more than its face value. Yet among this ocean of ordinary coins lies a needle in a haystack, a coin with such dramatic deviations from perfection that it rewrote the record books, and what truly astonishes collectors is how such an error could have escaped detection at the mint, traveled through the channels of circulation or storage, and finally ended up in the hands of a lucky individual who realized its monumental significance. So what are the specific errors and mistakes that make this coin worth $4.6 million? Well, let us begin with one of the most striking aspects, the possibility of a double strike, where the coin was struck twice or even more during the minting process, but with an offset that leaves ghost-like images of Lincoln's profile or the Lincoln Memorial shifted and overlapping, creating a dramatic visual anomaly that is immediately recognizable even to the untrained eye. And such an error is incredibly rare on modern high-speed presses where quality control is rigorous. So when one does appear, it electrifies the collecting community. But this coin is far more than just a simple double strike. As experts believe, it also features a broad strike error, meaning that the coin was struck outside the collar that normally holds the blank in place, causing the design to expand and spread unnaturally across the planchet, producing a coin that is both larger and flatter than normal. And when combined with other errors, this creates a hybrid mistake that defies expectations. And to add another layer of intrigue, some numismatists have pointed out evidence of die clash marks on this penny, which occur when the obverse and reverse dies strike each other without a planchet in between, transferring ghostly outlines of one side of the design onto the other, and these clash marks add to the coin's uniqueness because they preserve a physical record of the minting accident itself. And yet the story does not end there, as there are also indications that this 2000 cent may have been struck on the wrong planchet altogether. Perhaps one intended for a foreign coin, or even a different denomination, which would explain slight weight discrepancies noted during expert analysis. And wrong planchet errors are among the most coveted in numismatics because they represent a dramatic failure of the minting process, allowing a coin to exist that should have been impossible in theory. And when such an error occurs in combination with other anomalies, the rarity and value multiply exponentially, leading directly to the kind of astronomical figure we see with this specimen. And to understand just how miraculous this convergence of errors is, one must picture the highly automated environment of the Denver Mint in the year 2000, where billions of coins were struck with sophisticated machinery designed to eliminate human error and catch mistakes before they could escape into circulation. And yet somehow this coin slipped through undetected, defying probability and becoming a numismatic legend, and collectors are fascinated by the thought that perhaps similar treasures are still out there waiting to be discovered in bank rolls, old jars of change, or tucked away in forgotten drawers, which fuels the excitement and passion for searching through everyday coins, because every collector dreams of being the one to stumble across a life-changing find like this. And another factor that contributes to the staggering value of this coin is its condition. Because even though many error coins are heavily circulated or damaged, this 2000 cent has been reported in remarkably high grade, with sharp detail, original luster, and minimal wear, making it not just rare because of its errors but also visually stunning. And the combination of rarity, error complexity, and condition is the trifecta that drives coin values into the millions. And at auction this coin became a sensation, sparking bidding wars among top collectors and institutions eager to add it to their collections, with the final hammer price reaching an astonishing $4.6 million forever, cementing its place in numismatic history. And what makes this story so engaging is that it proves once again that extraordinary value can be hidden in the most unexpected places, that even a coin as small and humble as a penny can change someone's life if it carries the right characteristics. And it serves as an inspiring reminder for all of us to pay closer attention to the details in our own change, because you never know when you might be holding a fortune in the palm of your hand. And as we reflect on the significance of this penny, we can also explore the broader implications for the hobby of coin collecting, which thrives on stories like this. Because every new discovery breathes life into the community, encouraging new collectors to join the hunt and seasoned experts to keep searching, knowing that the next great rarity might be just around the corner. And beyond its monetary value, this coin is also a piece of history, a physical artifact that connects us to the year 2000, to the minting practices of that era, and to the broader story of the Lincoln cent, which has been an enduring symbol of American coinage for more than a century. And the errors on this coin remind us that even in our most precise and automated systems, perfection is elusive, and sometimes those imperfections create something more beautiful and valuable than perfection ever could. And as collectors marvel at the 2000 cent worth $4.6 million, they are also reminded of other famous error coins throughout history, such as the 1955 double die cent, the 1943 copper penny, or the 1974 aluminum cent, all of which carry their own incredible stories and values. But this particular 2000 stands apart because it embodies a perfect storm of multiple errors combined with exceptional preservation, making it virtually one of a kind. And that uniqueness is what collectors prize above all else, because in the world of numismatics, rarity is king, and nothing drives prices higher than the knowledge that you are holding the only example of its kind. And this is why auction houses went into a frenzy when this coin appeared, why collectors lined up with million-dollar bids, and why the final price soared to levels that most people could never imagine paying for a penny. And as we close this exploration, it is worth considering what lessons we can take away from this story, that attention to detail, patience, and passion can yield rewards beyond imagination, that history is written not just in books but in the everyday objects we handle, and that sometimes the most extraordinary treasures are hiding in plain sight. So keep searching, keep learning, and never underestimate the humble penny, because as the story of the 2000 cent shows us, One tiny coin can carry a value of $4.6 million and a legacy that will live forever in the world of rare coins.